Chapter 23. After sending off Gilgamesh, Wuming soon caught up with Ishtar, who was heading to the top of the mountain. After that, Wuming and Ishtar went down the mountain together. After watching Ishtar leave, Wuming deliberately set up a barrier to prevent Ishtar from going back on her words. After that, they returned to the Uruk Hyunryong stone statue. "You're back, Hyunryong." The young Gilgamesh sat in front of the stone statue and looked at the vast sky. "Yes, I'm back. I also successfully stopped Ishtar, but what happened, Hyunryong?" The young king tilted his head and was unusually cute. "Ahem, you'll know in the future. Now, you have to start becoming stronger, Gil. Otherwise, you won't be able to protect the things you want to protect. Just like today, you can only rely on others." "Yes, I know." The young Gil smiled innocently. In fact, the young Gilgamesh wasn't weak. Of course, this was only for humans. The young Gilgamesh was a child prodigy. Whether it was martial arts or wisdom, they were both extraordinary. But, in the future, you will face all the gods in the sky. Without great power, you won't be able to compete with them. Gilgamesh wasn't an idiot. He was naive now, but he wasn't stupid. For magic, you should continue to ask your mother for advice. For martial arts, I'll take care of it, but the stone statue that Wuming was attached to emitted a terrifying aura. If you don't take this teaching seriously, you'll die. The young Gilgamesh swallowed and nodded his little head frantically. After that, under the guidance of Wuming and Rimit Ningsuan, Gilgamesh grew rapidly. Time flew by quickly. After the usual Hyunryong ritual, the blonde, red-eyed, heroic queen sat in front of the Hyunryong statue. She just sat there quietly, looking at the vast and boundless sky without saying a word. The stone statue began to glow, revealing an illusory figure. "What's wrong, Gil? Is something on your mind?" Wuming looked at the heroic queen in front of him and couldn't help but recall the past. "I actually didn't realize that Gil was a girl before, I'm such a big idiot." Sigh, it couldn't be helped. Who asked Gilgamesh to be so handsome and androgynous when he was a child? Besides, it was impossible for Wuming to watch Gilgamesh take a bath or go to the toilet. "Nothing big. I just feel that the people are living too comfortably." "Who are you? Do they lack the courage to face their fears?" "Come to think of it, they come to me whenever they're in trouble." Wuming pondered. The current Uruk people might not be able to survive the bowl of the sky in the future, the 7-year drought. "So, you want to be a tyrant?" After hearing this, Gilgamesh's face lit up with an arrogant smile. "I'm not a tyrant, I'm a tyrant. I'll take my leave first, Hyunryong." As he spoke, Gilgamesh stood up handsomely and walked toward the Uruk palace. After all, a perfect genius would definitely become a king when he grew up. As expected, during this period, the Uruk king Gilgamesh wantonly fought and accumulated wealth. Thinking back to Gilgamesh when he was a child, he was highly respected and admired by everyone. Although he was a girl, Gilgamesh was extraordinary, beautiful, and heroic. Most importantly, he was the ideal ruler of the people. The young Gilgamesh had the qualities of a king that were more outstanding than anyone else on earth: tolerance, deep thinking, justice, and virtue. All the passers-by on the street praised her, falling head over heels for her beauty. However, this was all a plot of the gods. In order to restrict the people, the gods created Gilgamesh, who was 2/3 god and 1/3 human. They made him a king and ruled over the ignorant people, making them peaceful and believing in them. However, after he grew up, Gilgamesh realized that the people lacked some things, such as the courage to face their fears. Now that Wuming was here, it only increased the occurrence of this matter. Hence, Gilgamesh decided to create a storm to discipline the people instead of just being a king who ruled over them. The disaster of the people came. Gilgamesh had been bullying people and tyrannizing women recently. His character had changed from being wise, gentle, tolerant, and just to arrogant and domineering. Now, he often called others bastards. How should he put it? This was something worth complaining about. The hero King Gilgamesh, who called others bastards, 2/3 god and 1/3 human. Just kidding. Hence, one day, Wuming sneaked into the dream of the sleeping Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh walked on a dark road with a bleak future. "Is this my dream?" Gilgamesh said. "Yes, Gil, this is your dream." The huge Hyunryong appeared behind Gilgamesh. "Oh, is this your real body, Hyunryong?" Gilgamesh crossed his arms and said with interest. "How is it? Not bad, right?" "Ha ha ha." Wuming's dull voice began to spread. Gilgamesh, who was frowning slightly, chuckled softly and said, "Don't worry." "Then, what are you doing in my dream, Hyunryong?" "Today, I snuck into your dream to tell you about the prophecy I saw today. Secondly, I came to see if you have changed." Wuming stopped laughing and said, "What prophecy?" Gilgamesh said seriously. After all, it was a prophecy from his teacher, so he had to listen to it for the time being. This was what Gilgamesh thought. In order to prevent you from not focusing on suppressing the people, the gods made a humanoid weapon when you were young. Soon, this humanoid weapon will accidentally learn of your various atrocities and come to Europe to stop your atrocities. His name is Enkidu. Enkidu, interesting. Then let him come. Let me see if the weapon made by the gods has the strength. After that, Gilgamesh turned and walked on the dark road. You will become friends with him. Gilgamesh, who was walking forward, stopped and turned to look at Wuming. Humph. Friends? I, Gilgamesh, don't need friends, and no one is qualified to be my friend. Gilgamesh looked at Wuming fiercely. But in Wuming's view, she was like a proud lioness. "Oh, is that so, Gil?" Wuming said with a smile, deliberately lengthening his voice. "Hey, you are my teacher, so we are not the same." Before he finished, Gilgamesh immediately turned and continued to walk. But before turning around, Wuming still caught the blush on her face. "It will be the only friend you recognize. This, when you see it, you will realize." Wuming looked at Gilgamesh and said, "Humph. Then when I see it, I will beat it up." Gilgamesh walked and said without looking back. Wuming's huge dragon mouth opened and he smiled. "As you wish." Gilgamesh's footsteps paused for a moment, but in the blink of an eye, he continued to walk. Although your future is full of fog, your goal is unwavering. You will definitely reach the end. Continue to walk. Before I leave, I will open a path for you, as your teacher for 18 years. After that, the darkness around Gilgamesh's path gradually dispersed. Wuming's huge dragon body also turned into specks of starlight, floating around Gilgamesh. At this moment, she was like a battle goddess, heroic, beautiful, and powerful. Chapter 24. After Wuming snuck into Gilgamesh's dream, for a long time, Gilgamesh's behavior was slightly restrained. Although the people didn't notice, Wuming did. After that, the Enkidu that Wuming mentioned came to Uruk city. And because of Wuming's words, Gilgamesh also began to pay attention to Enkidu. On this day, Wuming was attached to a dragon-shaped puppet made by magic and flew into the palace where Gilgamesh was. Gilgamesh saw something come in, his body moved, and with a leap, he grabbed the puppet that Wuming was attached to. "This is Hyunryong. You're so carefree, not only do you not need to recover, you're still in the mood to play with puppets," Gilgamesh mocked. To the outside world, Wuming announced that he was injured and needed to recover. "What are you talking about? This is also a necessary lesson for self-cultivation. Look at my wings, how realistic the carvings are, and these claws." Wuming, who was grabbed by Gilgamesh, began his speech. "Stop, I don't want to know the structure of this puppet. Why did you come to this king today? Do you want to see this king become friends with Enkidu? Gilgamesh swung his hand and let go of Wuming. Wuming flapped his wings and flew in front of Gilgamesh. You're so violent, I don't remember teaching you to be like this. Wuming quickly said when he saw Gilgamesh's fierce, ruby-like eyes. Ahem, actually, I'm just worried about you. I'm afraid you'll get hurt, so I'm here to make sure you don't go overboard. In fact, after Wuming told Gilgamesh about Enkidu, Wuming was worried that Gilgamesh wouldn't become friends with Enkidu, then the story would be messed up. Ugh, alright, even though the history of this world was different from the stories Wuming knew, it was still not the same. But that wasn't the point, at least Wuming didn't hate the god-made weapon called Enkidu. Wuming was now almost able to use a bit of the power of the root dragon, so Wuming decided that when the Bull of the Sky wreaks havoc in the future, he would deal with it. That way, the gods wouldn't punish either Gilgamesh or Enkidu. Humph. A guy that I've never heard of could injure this king. Who do you think this king is? What a joke. Hyunryong, don't worry, this king is just going to beat it up and won't do anything to it. After all, this king is the Uruk hero king. Gilgamesh crossed his arms in front of his chest with an arrogant look. Wuming looked at Gilgamesh's arms with a strange expression and muttered in a low voice. I didn't notice it before, how did it grow so fast now? What are you looking at, Hyunryong? Gilgamesh's face was slightly red as he turned his body sideways, and his arms began to cover his chest. Ahem, nothing, don't underestimate Enkidu later. After all, it was created as a god-made weapon to contain you. Underestimating it will cause you to suffer. Wuming coughed and quickly changed the topic. I know, this king will be a little more serious later, just a little more. Gilgamesh's face showed an expression that said, I'll hit it a little more gently. Sure enough, Wuming had already thought of Gilgamesh's awkwardness when he realized that he couldn't do anything to Enkidu for a while. Then I wish you good luck, Gil. The puppet dragon lay on Gilgamesh's head with a happy face. Hey, you can only lie there for a while, this king will go and meet that guy later. Yes, Wuming found that Gilgamesh would only reveal her young girl's heart when she was alone with him. She showed the attitude of an ordinary person, not a king or a tyrant, noble, cruel, arrogant, and powerful. Wuming didn't want to see Gilgamesh as a king, which made him think of Artoria. However, Wuming knew that Gilgamesh was a real king, an impeccable one. He didn't want Artoria to abandon her gender and only protect her people with her sword. Gilgamesh wouldn't hide her gender. On the contrary, she would openly tell the people and lead them in two contradictory ways, which were full of warmth and cruelty. It had to be said that Gilgamesh was much better at being a king than Artoria. Artoria was only suitable to be a knight. Of course, this was only Wuming's personal opinion. No matter what, as long as they wanted to, Wuming would open a path for them. Wuming came back to his senses and cleared his mind. Looking at the busy streets and the worried people, Wuming said, I think Enkidu will come back to you in the name of the people. Gilgamesh crossed his long legs, drank the wine, and said with a smile, Ha! Then let him come. This king is worried that no one can entertain this king. Gilgamesh took a sip of the wine in the fancy wine glass and savored it carefully. Hyunryong, do you want a sip? Gilgamesh raised the glass and said to Wuming, who was on top of his head. Forget it. This puppet doesn't have feelings. It doesn't matter if I drink or not. After saying that, Wuming seemed to have sensed something. He immediately flew up from Gilgamesh's head and landed on the table in front of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh also looked at the door. After a few seconds, a soldier came in from outside. King, someone called Enkidu is provoking you outside the palace. He said that you are cruel and heartless. He wants you to change. Gilgamesh looked at the soldier. With just a glance, the soldier lowered his head even more. Let him wait. Yes, the soldier said and quickly ran out. Gilgamesh slowly savored the wine in his hand. He wasn't in a hurry. At this time, Wuming spoke. How cruel are you now? Look at that soldier, he doesn't even dare to look at you. That's just because he hasn't gotten used to my changes and is afraid of angering me. It'll be fine after a while. Gilgamesh put down the empty glass and stood up. Okay, the wine is finished. It's time to let that guy called Enkidu know the name of the hero king. After saying that, he strode out of the door. Don't be careless. Shut up. Wuming smiled and shook his head. He also flew out of the window. On the street, Gilgamesh stood straight in the middle of the street with his arms crossed. His golden ratio figure was exposed. He looked at the opposite side with a mocking expression. In front of him, a person with long green hair and a face that resembled a young girl stood there. He looked at Gilgamesh with a serious expression. Are you Enkidu? Are you the hero king, Gilgamesh? The two sentences that were said at almost the same time collided with each other, forming an invisible pressure in the air. Ha! Interesting. Let me see what you're made of. Bastard. Chapter 25. However, this isn't the place to fight. Come with me. After saying that, she walked towards the stone statue. After all, this was her country, her territory. She couldn't afford to lose anything. After a while, the two of them met in front of the Hyenryong stone statue. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu arrived, Wuming had already transferred his consciousness into the stone statue. After the two of them arrived, Wuming used the Lune runes to create a barrier to protect the sacrificial altar from being destroyed. Then, let me ask you something. What are you here for? Are you here to teach me a lesson? Gilgamesh sneered. That's right. Let me teach you a lesson for your arrogance. Finishing his words, Enkidu stomped on the ground and shot forward, charging at Gilgamesh in front of him. Gilgamesh didn't want to be left behind and rushed towards him as well. Dong! The two of them collided and created a strong gust of wind that blew away everything around them. The huge Hyenryong stone statue shook slightly, but it quickly stabilized. During the confrontation, Gilgamesh looked into Enkidu's golden eyes. Gilgamesh saw understanding in those eyes, as if Enkidu had already seen through him. Gilgamesh couldn't help but be enraged. Gilgamesh exerted force and pushed Enkidu away. With a wave of his hand, golden ripples appeared behind him. Blades, spears, swords, and halberds that could be considered treasures slowly emerged from the golden ripples. Gilgamesh grabbed one of them and charged at Enkidu again, while the rest of the treasures shot out one after another. Their target was Enkidu. Enkidu saw the incoming swords, spears, swords, and halberds, as well as Gilgamesh who was charging at him with a sword in his hand. However, he didn't panic. He only touched the ground with one hand, and in an instant, swords made of mud appeared from the ground. Enkidu grabbed one of them and charged at Gilgamesh. Bam, 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 bam. One by one, the treasures collided with the treasures made of earth, creating sonic booms. Gilgamesh and Enki were also engaged in battle. Saber chi and sword chi swirled in the air. Slowly, Wuming's protection started to lose its effect. The Lune runes were violently destroyed, and cracks appeared on the ground. Ridiculous. You're just a piece of mud and pebble. How dare you compare yourself to me? Gilgamesh seemed to have met an evenly matched opponent. At this moment, Gilgamesh's face was filled with shock and anger. Enkidu didn't say anything. Instead, he faced Gilgamesh's endless attacks. Bam! 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 Gilgamesh and Enkidu's fight became more and more intense. Wuming, who possessed the Hyunryong stone statue, was speechless. Just like that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu fought on the Hyunryong sacrificial altar for an entire day. The sounds of swords clashing echoed throughout the Uruk, making the Uruk citizens very uneasy. Finally, the sounds of swords and sabers stopped. Gilgamesh stood tiredly. His clothes were badly damaged and couldn't cover anything. Enkidu was the same. His body was lacking in weight and his clothes couldn't cover his body. After all, the swords and sabers were made from Enkidu's own soil. After a moment, Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu and laughed happily. This surprised Wuming. Ha 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 ha. Gilgamesh lay on the ground while laughing. However, as if there was something supporting him, he slowly lay down. At the same time, a piece of white cloth wrapped around Gilgamesh. This is our last move, right? If we don't have anything to protect, we'll just end up with 2 more stupid corpses. Gilgamesh said with a smile. Then, how about we end it with a draw? Enkidu thought for a moment and said. Then, he followed Gilgamesh's movement and lay down. But in the next moment, Enkidu felt a force supporting him from the huge stone statue. At the same time, a piece of white cloth appeared out of nowhere and wrapped around him. That must be Hyunryong. So gentle, after resting for a moment, Enkidu suddenly said. Won't you feel bad about using up those treasures? Gilgamesh lay on the slightly messy Hyunryong altar and laughed. What's the big deal? If the opponent is worth it, I'll even use up all the things in the gate of Babylon. Is that so? You're interesting. Enkidu's clear voice said something that Garen didn't understand. Hearing the conversation between Gilgamesh and Enkidu while lying on the ground, Wuming suddenly had a wicked idea. Hyunryong's stone statue suddenly emitted a golden light. Gilgamesh and Enkidu subconsciously turned their heads away. After the golden light faded, 2 people appeared in front of the statue. After seeing the 2 people, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were stunned. Golden hair, ruby-like eyes filled with deathly stillness, and a face that resembled Gilgamesh's. If one were to say that these 2 were Gilgamesh's younger brother or elder brother, no one would doubt it. But, Gilgamesh, do you have a brother? Enkidu asked curiously. Gilgamesh, who was usually arrogant, actually blushed. Although his expression became angrier, it also became more alluring. Hyunryong, did you do it? Gilgamesh roared. After being roared at by Gilgamesh, the 2 people seemed to have woken up, and their eyes regained their vigor. One of them spoke. Ha ha ha, these are the dolls that I made earlier to make it easier for me to possess. I modified them just now to make these 2 dolls more realistic. Then, the other puppet said, don't worry. I saw that you 2 were tired from fighting, so I was going to send you 2 to the palace to rest. As he spoke, the 2 male versions of Gilgamesh walked towards Gilgamesh and Enkidu respectively. Hey, don't use my face. Wait, I'll just rest here for a while, I don't need you to send me, wah. Before he could finish, Wuming picked up Gilgamesh. Of course, he was carrying him like a princess. At the same time, Wuming's other doll also picked up Enkidu. Compared to the noisy Gilgamesh, Enkidu was much more obedient. Look at Enkidu, he's so obedient. You should behave yourself too. I don't need you to care about me, hurry up and put me down. Also, why are you using such a young doll, you old monster who has lived for who knows how many years? Although Gilgamesh said that he didn't want to, when he heard the other Wuming's dolls say that Enkidu was obedient, he also sat down and stopped making a fuss. However, his face became even redder. That's really sad. I'm not even a newborn in my race. Wuming's doppelganger controlled the 2 dolls and spoke as they walked. Enkidu, who was lying quietly in Wuming's arms, looked at the male version of Gilgamesh face and thought, what a warm embrace, is this the legendary origin dragon? Accompanied by the noise of Wuming and Gilgamesh, Wuming, who used the Loon rune to hide Gilgamesh and Enkidu, returned to the palace with Gilgamesh and Enkidu. After that, the Uruk spread the news that Enkidu, who challenged the tyrant Gilgamesh, was recruited by Hyunryong as a sacrifice. The sacrifice Enkidu would be stationed at the Hyunryong sacrificial altar. Chapter 26. After crossing the Tigris River, Gilgamesh and Enkidu walked into a mountain called Zagros Mountain. The mountain was filled with cedar trees. Since Funbaba, the mythical creature of the forest, lived here, these cedar trees were growing very well. There were also signs of small animals moving around in the cedar forest. So this is the cedar forest where Funbaba lives. What a beautiful scenery. It seems like Funbaba lives up to its name as the mythical creature of the forest. Gilgamesh complimented without hesitation. Gilgamesh was never stingy with his compliments. Yes, I passed by this place when I was traveling. Although Funbaba is a mythical creature, Funbaba is not as ferocious as other mythical creatures. It only lives here quietly, guarding countless treasures. No one knows where it came from. I have never even heard of which mythical creature it is. Enkidu explained. Let's go. Let's deal with Funbaba first. We'll talk about the Hyunryong relic and the wood later. Gilgamesh said and started walking deeper into the forest. Enkidu hesitated for a while. He wanted to say something but gave up after giving it some thought. The two of them walked through the dense forest and arrived at an open space. They saw a gigantic mythical creature that was filled with the aura of the forest. The mythical creature was covered with green fur. Its head was like a deer's and its two huge antlers were like swords. Its body was like a bear's, but its gigantic body did not look barbaric. Instead, it gave off a special feeling of tranquility. That's a mythical creature. Gilgamesh said in disbelief. Yes, that's indeed the mythical creature of the forest, Funbaba. I was shocked when I first saw it. Although Funbaba is a mythical creature, for some unknown reason, Funbaba is not as ferocious as other mythical creatures. Enkidu explained to Gilgamesh. However, Gil, if our opponent is Funbaba, we can actually talk to it. Enkidu said thoughtfully. What do you mean? Gilgamesh asked in confusion. Funbaba has a gentle temperament. If you don't provoke it, it's actually a very easy magical beast to get along with. Because the fir forest is too lush, some people once got lost in this forest. They were all let out of the forest by Funbaba. This is also the reason why Funbaba is said to be the divine beast of the forest. Enkidu turned to look at Funbaba and continued. If it were me, I might be able to ask Funbaba to hand over the treasures and Hyunryong's relic. I might even be able to bring some fir trees back to Uruk. We can protect the forest's mythological beast, Funbaba, and also complete our mission. Isn't this the best of both worlds? After saying that, Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu happily. Gil, why are you looking at me like that? Is there a problem? Gilgamesh crossed his arms in front of his chest and said happily. As expected, Enkidu, you're becoming more and more like a human. Really? The reason why humans are called humans is because they have things that they need to protect. You're now racking your brains to think of a way to prevent us from getting into conflict with Funbaba for me and Hyunryong, and you're becoming more emotional. You can be said to be a normal person now. Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu's eyes that were more human and said in detail. Is that so, Gil? But why am I so calm now? Enkidu's eyes were slightly moist. Isn't that natural? Who would be happy to become a human? You're already a human. Then, Gilgamesh stopped smiling. Your plan is pretty good, but if Funbaba doesn't listen to you, then there's only one way left. After saying that, he held Enkidu's hand and walked towards Funbaba. Get ready for battle. Funbaba looked at Gilgamesh and Enkidu. It had already noticed them when they entered the forest. Woo! Funbaba let out a low cry. My friend, do you still remember me? I'm Enkidu. Enkidu walked in front of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh and Enkidu's beautiful bodies seemed so weak in front of Fanbaba. Woo! Fanbaba nodded and stretched its head in front of Enkidu and touched Enkidu lightly. Enkidu also boldly touched Fanbaba and smiled at Gilgamesh. Haha Gil, look at Fanbaba, it's so cute. Come and touch it too. Really? Will it swallow you when you're not paying attention? Gilgamesh swallowed his saliva. At this moment, the hero king turned into an obedient girl in front of this natural disaster. Ha ha ha, you don't look like the famous hero king now, Gil. Humph. I'll touch it, what's there to be afraid of? Gilgamesh said as he reached out his hand and touched Fanbaba's nose. Chee! Fanbaba suddenly raised its head and sneezed. This scared Gilgamesh so much that he jumped back. Ha 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 Gil, you'll definitely itch when you touch its nose. Enkidu covered his mouth and laughed. Gilgamesh also relaxed his body and looked at Enkidu, who covered his mouth and laughed. My friend, you've really become a human. It seems that I don't have to worry anymore. After the farce ended, Enkidu and Gilgamesh told Fanbaba the reason why they came here. Fanbaba didn't disappoint Enkidu and said that as long as they passed the test it set up, they could take away the treasures it kept. As for the trees, Fanbaba said that it could quickly make the trees grow without any side effects, so they could take it away at will. After that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu passed the test very quickly. After all, both of them were not evil people. Naturally, they passed the test set up by Fanbaba very quickly. During the test of strength with Fanbaba, the cloth that Enkidu wrapped around Wuming's sacred sword, X-Silver, was damaged during the battle and revealed the X-Silver. Fanbaba ended the test in excitement and announced that both of them could take away the treasures it was guarding. Enkidu and Gilgamesh were confused about Fanbaba's excitement. Could it be that Master Hyunryong knows Fanbaba and that's why he reacted to the X-Silver? Enkidu said as he hugged the X-Silver. Who knows? Maybe that guy owes Fanbaba money. That's why Fanbaba became excited when it sensed Hyunryong's aura. Gilgamesh joked. Alright, let's complete the task that Hyunryong gave us first. We'll talk about the rest later. Later, Fanbaba brought Gilgamesh and Enkidu to the treasure cave. Alright, let's get to work. Chapter 27. As he spoke, Gilgamesh placed one of his hands in front of him as if he was holding something. He clenched his fist and turned it around. After a series of mechanical clicks, a strange sword appeared in Gilgamesh's hand. Rather than calling it a sword hilt, it was more like a tool handle. Rather than calling it the heart of the sword, it was more like a cylinder with a precise structure. This was the key of the king's law that Gilgamesh had. It was one of the treasures of Babylon, the key to open and close the gate of Babylon. The gate was connected to the golden capital of Babylon, and there were a lot of treasures inside. Open, gate of Babylon. Following Gilgamesh's command, the key of the king's law began to move. The treasures in the cave were stored into the gate of Babylon one by one. Meanwhile, Enkidu was observing the weapons stored in the gate of Babylon to see if there were any weapons with X-Silver's aura. With meticulous manipulation, Gilgamesh and Enkidu took 3 days to store all the treasures into the gate of Babylon. However, the two of them began to discuss with a frown. Fanbaba was lying on an empty ground, basking in the sun comfortably. Why isn't there any? It shouldn't be. Enkidu hugged X-Silver and leaned against Fanbaba's stomach. Could it be that Hyunryong made a mistake? Gilgamesh leaned against a rock and rubbed his chin with one hand. I don't think so. After all, it's an important treasure of Master Hyunryong. There shouldn't be a mistake. After all, even Master Hyunryong knew that the noble phantasm was with Fanbaba. Enkidu shook his head. As it heard its name, Fanbaba, who was basking in the sun, let out a deep cry. Woo, sorry for disturbing you. Ugh, after coaxing Fanbaba to sleep, Gilgamesh complained. Enkidu, why don't I see you being so nice to me? Gilgamesh looked at Enkidu with resentment. Alright, let's not make a fuss. This is the first mission Hyunryong Sama has given us. We have to complete it seriously. Hyunryong wouldn't set up a question that can't be answered. Since he asked us to come here, it must be here. Gilgamesh and Enkidu fell silent and began to think. The sun slowly moved to the center. At this moment, Gilgamesh seemed to have realized something and suddenly said, "By the way, do you remember what Hyunryong said about the mission?" "What did he say?" "Isn't it to defeat Fanbaba and retrieve the noble relic?" Enkidu seemed to have realized something too. "Are you saying that the key to the problem is Fanbaba?" Enkidu asked. "Yes, think about it. Hyunryong said to defeat Fanbaba, retrieve the noble relic, retrieve the treasure, retrieve the tree, and return to Uruk. In other words, Hyunryong didn't say that his noble relic is in the treasure that Fanbaba is guarding. It's on Fanbaba's body." Gilgamesh and Enkidu looked at Fanbaba, who was sleeping soundly. "But where is Hyunryong Sama's noble relic on Fanbaba? Its body is so big, there's no place to hide it. It can't be. It was eaten by Fanbaba, or..." Gilgamesh finished Enkidu's sentence. "Fanbaba is the noble relic. Now that I think about it, it's possible. After all, Hyunryong Sama said to defeat Fanbaba and retrieve the noble relic. There's a high possibility that Fanbaba is Hyunryong's noble relic. This fits the reason why Fanbaba suddenly appeared here." As if the mystery was solved, Gilgamesh and Enkidu let out a sigh of relief. The problem now is how to retrieve the noble relic. After all, it's impossible for us to kill Fanbaba, but we can't let Fanbaba follow us back to Uruk. Even if it's small, Fanbaba might not follow us back. Gilgamesh face-bombed with one hand. That fella really knows how to create trouble for others. Why don't we go back and tell Hyunryong that his noble relic has become Fanbaba? Enkidu looked at Gilgamesh and said. Sigh, that's the only way. Okay. Gilgamesh agreed. No need. Suddenly, a young voice came from the dense forest. Who's there? Gilgamesh immediately opened the gate of Babylon on his back and aimed his sword at the dense forest. Enkidu stood up immediately and held the hilt of X-silver with both of his hands, aiming it at the source of the voice. After some rustling, a young man with black hair and black eyes in a linen shirt walked out. He seemed to be about the same age as Gilgamesh and Enkidu. As for Fanbaba, it raised its head and looked at the source of the voice. Its eyes were filled with excitement. After seeing the face of the newcomer, it immediately rushed over. Wait, Fanbaba. However, what happened next shocked Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Woo, 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 good, good, good. Fanbaba's huge head kept rubbing against the young man, and the young man kept stroking the Fanbaba. It was a scene of a master and a pet getting along well. Could it be? You're Hyunryong, master. Gilgamesh and Enkidu said in unison. Yo. Gilgamesh, Shao En. Wuming stroked Fanbaba's head and raised his hand to greet Gilgamesh and Enkidu. At this moment, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were really stunned. So, you turned back into a dragon because of that guy called Morgan Laffy, and now you can control your ability and turn back into a human. This was because Wuming told Gilgamesh and Enkidu the truth, and also told them his name. Therefore, Gilgamesh said with an "I'm very unhappy" expression. This is unbelievable, Xian. Master Wuming. Enkidu also looked shocked. After all, Wuming's transmigration was not something that anyone could do. About that, I'm sorry for hiding it from you for so long. Wuming smiled bitterly and kept apologizing. Humph. Don't expect me to forgive you so easily. Thieves who lie to the king must be punished severely. Gilgamesh stared at Wuming with her beautiful eyes. However, this did not make Wuming back down. Instead, he looked at Gilgamesh with interest. Alright, Gil, Master Wuming didn't do it on purpose. Let's put this matter to rest. Nah, Enkidu smiled at the two of them and tilted his head. This made Wuming and Gilgamesh blush. After all, after Enkidu became a woman, her charm was too great. So, is Fanbaba your noble phantasm, Wuming? Gilgamesh was still not used to Hyunryong's new name. She stuttered as she spoke. Well, actually, I only found the exact location of my noble phantasm. I only found out that Fanbaba was my noble phantasm when I secretly followed you guys here. No, strictly speaking, my noble phantasm and Fanbaba had merged. After Wuming saw Fanbaba, the connection between the noble phantasm and its owner was immediately connected. Therefore, Wuming finally confirmed that Fanbaba was the noble phantasm. Merged? Enkidu said. Yes, although I don't know, Fanbaba is my Yggdrasil. After saying that, Fanbaba rubbed Wuming again. Alright, let's go back. Fanbaba can continue to stay here. Wuming also hoped that his noble phantasm would be more flexible. Therefore, he decided to leave Fanbaba in the fir forest for the time being. Gilgamesh and Enkidu looked at each other and sighed. They did not say anything. After all, they had been busy for a few days because of Wuming's noble phantasm. Wuming asked Fanbaba to create a large number of trees. After that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu brought a large amount of wood back to Uruk. Meanwhile, Wuming transformed back into his dragon form and returned to the mountain palace. Chapter 28. After Gilgamesh and Enkidu returned to the Uruk with the wood, the news that the king had defeated the mythical beast of the forest, Fanbaba, obtained countless treasures, and returned with a large amount of wood began to spread like wildfire in Mesopotamia. It was as if someone was deliberately pushing the news. Of course, it was Wuming who pushed the news behind the scenes. His purpose was naturally to create prestige for Gilgamesh. As for Wuming, ever since he returned to his stone palace in the mountains, he had been staying at home and never came out again. However, Wuming would occasionally observe the Uruk through the statue of Hyunryong. To be honest, although Gilgamesh's rule had become brutal, the living conditions of the Uruk had become better. On a very peaceful day, a slight earthquake suddenly occurred in the Uruk. Half a day later, a god descended upon the Uruk. Because it was the year 2600 BC, although it was the end of the gods' era, there were still gods descending. In the gods' era, it was very rare for gods to descend. However, the ceremony still had to be held. Just as people were preparing the ceremony for this god directly rushed into Hyunryong's temple of worship. Dong! Suddenly, this god broke a hole in the roof of the temple. Hyunryong! Come out! A voice filled with seduction was heard. Goddess Ishtar, please don't make a ruckus in Hyunryong's temple. Also, please pay for the broken roof after you leave. As the chief priest, Enkidu slowly walked out from the temple. It's you. Humph. Where's Hyunryong? Hurry up and ask him to come out and pay for his debt. Ishtar angrily said to Enkidu while floating in the air on the legendary heavenly boat, Anna. However, Ishtar seemed to have recognized Enkidu. Lord Hyunryong is here. If you're sincere, you can see him. If you're not sincere, you can't see him. Enkidu seemed to hate Ishtar very much, and his tone was very unpleasant. I don't care if he's sincere or not. If he doesn't come out, I'll smash his temple. Ishtar looked like she was about to fight, as if she was really going to smash this place. Who is it? Why are you so angry? Oh, it's Ishtar. What brings you here? A shadow appeared on the statue in the center, and Wuming temporarily possessed it. Hyunryong. But the hero king you mentioned was a boy. Why is he a girl now? Ishtar angrily roared as if she had been deceived. Ahem, I thought you would come to me earlier. However, I was also kept in the dark about this. I didn't know that Gilgamesh was a girl. After all, Gilgamesh was only 3 years old when you met her. The shadow flickered. Wuming guessed that with Ishtar's personality, she must have gotten into some trouble that caused her to not pay attention to the Uruk for the past few years. To be honest, the past few years were just a nap for a god. Humph. Let me tell you, I've already destroyed Abifu Mountain. This is only the interest. I don't want anything else. I heard that the hero king is a peerless beauty. If you let her follow me and become my maid, I might consider forgiving you. Who do you think you are? You want Gil to serve you. Enkidu's little face was filled with anger. That's right, Ishtar. Don't even think about Gilgamesh. I won't allow it. The stone statue emitted a powerful wave, and in an instant, Ishtar was subdued by this wave. All right then. Just you wait. Humph. After saying that, Ishtar rode the sky ship horse Anna and left through the opening. With a flash of light, the shadow on the statue turned into a human figure and landed beside Enkidu. It seems that the earthquake from before was caused by the destruction of Abifu Mountain. Wuming said slowly. Lord Wuming, I heard that you've saved Abifu Mountain before. What was the reason? Enkidu asked curiously. I saved Abifu Mountain because of Gil. At that time, I brought the young Gil to Abifu Mountain for an adventure. Because Abifu Mountain is a spiritual mountain, I asked it to take care of Gil when he went up the mountain. When he went down the mountain, he met the goddess Ishtar. After realizing the goddess' intention, Gil said, Aren't you going to save him? Then, on a whim, he made an agreement with Ishtar. That's how Abifu Mountain was able to survive until now. However, it still couldn't escape the fate of being destroyed by Ishtar. Wuming said helplessly. Actually, Abifu Mountain was supposed to disappear more than 10 years ago. Judging from the current situation, it's actually the same. Lord Wuming, you don't have to be sad about this. Enkidu comforted him. Wuming was stunned. He smiled and shook his head. He wanted to say something, but his mouth was suddenly stuck. Wuming suddenly thought of an idea. I'm so sad. I need a caring kiss to recover. This time, Enkidu was helpless. Really, Lord Wuming, are you a child? Although he said that, Enkidu still tiptoed and kissed Wuming on the lips. This time, Wuming was nervous again. After all, he only wanted to make a joke. He didn't expect Enkidu to really kiss him. However, Wuming wasn't the kind of person who wouldn't eat meat that was already in his mouth. Wuming hugged Enkidu, who was kissing with his eyes closed. This scared Enkidu so much that he wanted to retreat. However, Wuming's big hands directly hugged Enkidu. Enkidu was nervous at first, but then he wrapped his hands around Wuming's neck. The two of them started a French kiss in the hole. Wuming, I heard that Ishtar was here. What is she doing here? Suddenly, a clear female voice came from outside the hole. Wuming and Enkidu were so scared that they quickly separated from each other. Gilgamesh walked into the lookout hole. The first thing he saw was a blushing Enkidu and a nonchalant Wuming. Gilgamesh frowned and said, You guys are so strange. Did something happen when I wasn't here? Enkidu quickly waved his hands. However, there was still a lingering charm on his face that couldn't dissipate. How? How could that be? Right. Right, Gil, why did you come to the lookout hole? Yeah, Gil, did you miss me? Wuming also asked. No, to be precise, he was teasing him. Who would miss you? You narcissist. This made Gilgamesh's face turn red. However, he didn't care about what Gilgamesh had noticed before. I saw a stream of light crash into the lookout hole. I instantly guessed that it was Ishtar. However, what is she doing here? Although she is the Uruk city god, she hasn't appeared for a long time. I thought that guy was dead, Gilgamesh said with an arrogant expression. Wuming bet that if Ishtar heard this, she would definitely go crazy. Cough, she's here to settle old scores. She used the incident at Abifu Mountain many years ago to blackmail you. She said that she wants you to be her servant. Wuming said indifferently. What? Who does she think she is? She wants this king to be her servant. I am the hero king. How dare she humiliate me like this? Sure enough, there are no good gods. Gilgamesh was angry when he heard this. He also glared at Wuming. What does it have to do with me? Wuming thought. Although Ishtar was scared away by me, she must have gone to find her father god. With the gods' love for Ishtar, plus the relationship between Enkidu and Gilgamesh, the gods will definitely take advantage of this opportunity. This time, the Uruk may face a disaster. Wuming frowned and said. Wuming, Sama is right. I even suspect that Ishtar came to ask for Gil because of Father God Enkidu's idea. He wants to bring back Gil, who is the sky wedge. Enkidu's words were not unreasonable. After all, Enkidu's mission when he came to the Uruk was to bring Gilgamesh back to the gods. Well, I know. I will pay attention to the Uruk during this time. There is no other way. Just act according to the situation. Wuming looked at the stormy weather outside and said slowly. The Uruk is going to change. Chapter 29. Ever since Ishtar left, Wuming had started to set up various enchantments around the Uruk. After all, if the story of this world was the same as the one that Wuming knew, the mythical beast Sky Bull would descend soon. Although Gilgamesh and Enkidu had defeated the Sky Bull in the legends, the Sky Bull had wreaked havoc on the earth for 7 years. It was obvious how difficult it was to deal with a divine beast like the Sky Bull. After finishing the last rune, Wuming stood up. If that's the case, we should be able to reduce the Sky Bull's calamity. Wuming looked in the direction of the Uruk palace. I wonder how Gil and Shaoan's preparations are going. After Ishtar left, he helplessly told the two of them to prepare a chain to capture the bull of the sky. Since Enkidu was a man-made weapon, he volunteered to refine his own body. Because the purpose of my creation is to become Gil, who has 2/3 of his divinity, so my attribute is to restrain a god. Using my body to refine a chain will definitely be able to deal with a god. For the sake of the overall situation, and the fact that Enkidu's body wasn't severely damaged, Wuming decided to let Gil and Enkidu prepare to cast the chains, while Wuming carved the Lune runes to protect the Uruk. I think the god-opposing chains should be almost complete. After saying that, Wuming's figure flashed and disappeared. In the secret chamber of the Uruk palace, Gilgamesh and Enkidu continued to add their own magic power to the flame in the center of the secret room. A chain-like object was surging in the flame like a fire dragon. Suddenly, an illusion appeared in the room. After the illusion disappeared, Wuming's figure appeared in the room. Wuming, sir. Gilgamesh and Enkidu's eyes lit up. Is the chain completed? Wuming looked at the two of them. We're just one step away from dripping our blood into it, Enkidu replied. Let's start quickly. I have a feeling that the Sky Bull is coming, Wuming said seriously. The three of them stood around the flame, forming a tripod. Why do we have to drip our blood every time we forge? Wuming thought gloomily. The three of them used different methods to drip their blood into the flame. After the flame absorbed their power, the flame's color began to change continuously. In the end, the flame's continuously changing color was absorbed into the chain. The chain rolled violently, and after waiting for a moment, the flame was extinguished. A silver chain with 2 golden wedges floated in the air. Wuming stretched out his hand, and the chain quickly flew into Wuming's hand like a bird returning to its nest. From now on, you'll be called Heaven's Chain, Enkidu, Wuming said. He ignored Gilgamesh and Enkidu's shocked expressions. After saying that, he threw the chain to Gilgamesh. After catching it in a hurry, Gilgamesh glared at him. "What are you doing? Aren't you holding it? What if the sky bull comes?" Wuming shook his head and said, "This chain is for you to use, Gil." Wuming continued. "Because Enkidu can't participate in the battle, I'm going to return to my dragon form to deal with the sky bull. Is that okay? Will it cause any harm to your body, Lord Wuming?" Enkidu asked with concern. Wuming had told Gilgamesh and Enkidu the reason why Enkidu couldn't participate in the battle. In that case, Gilgamesh and Wuming would be the ones to deal with the sky bull. Even if the gods wanted to punish Gilgamesh, they wouldn't be able to do it. After all, they needed a king that could connect the gods and humans, and Gilgamesh was not a candidate. As for Wuming, as the origin dragon, the gods were just ants. Well, that was in front of the adult, origin dragon. But even if it was Wuming, he could still run away if he couldn't win. "Don't worry, ever since I accidentally turned into my adult dragon form and used my own power to transform back, I've mastered the method to transform myself. Don't worry about me." Wuming patted Enkidu's head and smiled. Enkidu blushed at first, but then he smiled. "It's good that Lord Wuming is fine." Looking at Wuming and Enkidu, who were enjoying their lovey-dovey moment, Gilgamesh frowned and suddenly shouted. "Hey! Why don't you find a place to show off your affection? Can't you see that I'm still here?" Gilgamesh snorted and walked out of the secret room with Enkidu. "Is Gil jealous?" Wuming and Enkidu looked at each other and laughed. At this moment, in the sky above the Uruk, the wind and clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The figure of a bull seemed to be coming out of the clouds. Gilgamesh hurriedly returned to the secret room. "Wuming, it seems like the bull of heaven you were talking about is here," Gilgamesh said with a serious expression. "Let's go. Let's meet this bull." Moo! A loud sound that sounded like a bull's moo came from the clouds. A huge hoof of a bull fell from the clouds. A cloud of dust flew into the air. Dong! Then, the full appearance of the sky bull was revealed. This was a divine ox with a graceful bearing, full of a peculiar sense of beauty. Its horns and hooves were all golden in color. Wherever it stepped, the ground began to dry up, and wherever it passed, the rivers began to dry up. This was the sky bull, the Uruk's bull of disaster. What? What's that? Is this God's punishment? God, please protect us. After seeing the disaster brought by the sky bull, the Uruk citizens began to worship the gods. Just as they knelt down and prayed to the gods, a golden light flew into the sky. "Stand up and hide in your rooms. This is only a demon beast. Watch this king kill it." Gilgamesh had a silver chain wrapped around her arm. She waved her small hand and gave orders to the Uruk citizens. Although Gilgamesh's temperament changed greatly after she became an adult, she was still the Uruk hero king. Although the citizens were afraid of Gilgamesh, they trusted her more. They trusted their king. After the citizens hid, the chain on Gilgamesh's hand began to dance in the air. Crash! After the sound of chains colliding, the sky bull was tightly bound by the Enkidu. The sky bull couldn't help but howl angrily. Moo! It was hard to say whether the sky bull was powerful or the Enkidu was weak. The sky bull was breaking free from the Enkidu bit by bit. Roar! At this moment, a powerful dragon's roar was heard. A silver-white, noble, and mysterious dragon flew towards the direction of the bull of heaven. At this moment, the bolder Uruk citizens began to pay attention to this disaster. That's Lord Hyunryong. No one knew who said this, but the Uruk citizens walked out of their houses one by one and began to pray to Wuming. Wuming began to fight with the sky bull. Both sides fought back and forth, but because of the Enkidu, the bull of heaven's strength was reduced by 80% to 90%. The bull of heaven was at a disadvantage. In the end, Wuming's claw pierced through the sky bull's heart. Following the sky bull's low cry, the sky bull collapsed. Uruk citizens. This bull was created by the gods to destroy you. The gods no longer need you. Only I, the legendary origin dragon, the legendary dragon, have made a contract with your king, Gilgamesh, to protect you. Remember my words and worship your king. Hero King. Hero King. Hero King. Wuming stood on the corpse of the sky bull while Gilgamesh stood on Wuming's head and received the cheers of the Uruk citizens. The sun shone on Gilgamesh. At this moment, she was like a saintess, beautiful and powerful. Chapter 30. Inside Gilgamesh's dormitory. Gilgamesh had been in a bad mood ever since he defeated the bull of heaven. Enkidu brought a plate of fruits and placed it in front of Gilgamesh. Enkidu looked at the depressed Gilgamesh and couldn't help but ask. What's wrong, Gil? You've been like this ever since you defeated the bull of heaven. Gilgamesh picked up a piece of fruit and bit into it. Sai Wuming was the one who took the credit for defeating the bull of heaven, but in the end, he let me receive the cheers of the people. If it wasn't for the Uruk, I wouldn't have accepted this kind of stolen credit. Enkidu sat next to Gilgamesh and held her hand. So you know it's for the Uruk people. Look, I even showed my face. But I'm the hero king, how can I accept this kind of fake honor? Gilgamesh is such a tsundere. Enkidu thought to himself. Actually, this is your honor. Think about it, Lord Wuming is now inseparable from you. You're bound together for good or ill. It can be said that the two of you are now united. Don't you feel happy? Enkidu asked with a smile. Yes, Lord Wuming. Together. Together. Who wants to be with him? But if you think about it carefully, for the sake of the Uruk, I'll reluctantly accept it. Wuming Sama was right, Gilgamesh is indeed the easiest woman to deal with in the entire Uruk. Enkidu thought. Oh right, where's the bull of heaven's corpse? Where did Wuming put it? Gilgamesh asked curiously. Master Wuming said that the sky bull's body is full of treasures. According to Master Wuming, the corpse of the sky bull has been sealed with a magic scroll for future use. Enkidu said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Why didn't I realize that Lord Wuming was so thrifty, by the way, Enkidu? Yes. What's wrong, Gil? As he spoke, Gilgamesh opened the gate of Babylon behind him, or rather, the gate of Babylon, and reached his hand into it as if he was groping for something. A moment later, a silver chain appeared in Gilgamesh's hand. The chain is... Here, your stuff. After all, it was a chain forged from a part of Enkidu's body, so Gilgamesh believed that its owner was Enkidu. However, in this situation, Enkidu only smiled and pushed his hand away, rejecting Gilgamesh. This is the proof of our friendship. It belongs to you, Gil. Gilgamesh also smiled. I knew you would say that. However, this chain is more useful to Wuming, so I've decided to give it to him. Gilgamesh's words stunned Enkidu. That's right, as the origin dragon, Lord Wuming will definitely have countless adventures in the future. As a divine weapon, Enkidu will definitely be very useful. Gil, take this Enkidu. As for Master Wuming, I'll think of something. As he finished speaking, Enkidu's gaze became firm. Gilgamesh seemed to have noticed something. After a moment of silence, he sighed. You've decided. A few days later, Ishtar drove the heavenly ship Anna to the Hyunryong Palace once again. However, this time, Ishtar's attitude was very respectful. Although Enkidu did not like Ishtar, she still came to Wuming respectfully. Enkidu led Ishtar to the Hyunryong statue. Master Hyunryong, even if you win this time, can you return the corpse of the heavenly bull to me? An unnatural smile appeared on Ishtar's beautiful face. However, even if it was a forced smile, Ishtar was still a goddess of beauty. The figure of the Hyunryong statue appeared. Cough. You know, I've been hungry for a long time. Now that I saw such a big guy, I was excited and ate it. Sorry. Wu Ming said with a, "I'm not full yet," expression. Hee hee. You really know how to joke, Master Hyunryong. However, there's something I have to tell you. Enkidu is my father's child, so... Ishtar smiled mysteriously. Then, she immediately flew away from the Hyunryong sacrificial palace on the heavenly ship Anna. The dragon figure changed, and Wu Ming landed on the ground. Wu Ming looked at Ishtar's back as she left. He could not get over it for a long time. Could it be that the gods are going to attack you? Enkidu, who was standing at the side, only smiled calmly after hearing this. That beautiful face made Wu Ming feel like he was a god. Master Wu Ming, don't worry. Although I'm still a divine weapon created by the gods, because of you, I've become the human girl Enkidu. Enkidu leaned close to Wu Ming and hugged him. Enkidu is willing to become the heavenly lock and accompany you. Please forgive my willfulness, Master Wu Ming. After a while, Wu Ming also hugged Enkidu. You're such a silly girl. Gilgamesh stood outside the Hyunryong palace with his back against the wall. He looked at the sky. I wish you happiness, my friend. 3 days later, the gods used the chain used to subdue the heavenly bull for Enkidu. Gilgamesh and Hyunryong were essential figures in the Uruk. They decided to punish Enkidu by turning her back into dirt and returning her to the earth. Ever since the Uruk high priest Enkidu disappeared, the newly appointed high priest Du Shili discovered that there was an additional silver chain on the stone statue of Hyunryong. Because the stone statue was lifelike, and the silver chain made it look even more lively. Because of the pain of his friend's departure and the revelation given by Hyunryong, the Uruk king Gilgamesh abandoned his people and began his journey to find the immortal grass of immortality. After going through untold hardships to obtain the immortal grass, he was eaten by a snake because of his carelessness. King Gilgamesh was enlightened and returned to the Uruk, which was still prosperous because of Hyunryong's protection. He focused on governing the Uruk and died a good death. Hyunryong also protected the Uruk until the connection between the people and the gods was severed. In the end, the people abandoned Hyunryong. Hyunryong also abandoned the humans and left the Uruk. In the end, the Uruk dynasty was destroyed. The legend of the origin dragon, Uruk Hyunryong, began in a new place. Chapter 31. A huge dragon was flying in a colorful passage. A silver chain was wrapped around the dragon's arm. The wedges on both ends of the chain were swinging freely. While the dragon was flying, it noticed an unusually small energy source that was moving forward. Out of curiosity, the dragon rushed toward the energy source. What entered its sight was an energy ball. What's this? Wu Ming asked curiously. At the same time, Wu Ming's huge dragon claw grabbed at the energy source. Anyway, with the strength and characteristics of the root dragon's body, Wu Ming was not afraid of the space-time turbulence or space-time strangulation. Hence, Wu Ming boldly grabbed at the energy ball. Just as Wu Ming's dragon claw was about to touch the energy ball, it was as if the energy ball had reached its destination. A space-time door appeared in front of the energy ball. Usually, the space-time door would only appear when a certain existence reached a certain destination in the space-time tunnel. Just like when Wu Ming first came into contact with the space-time tunnel when he first crossed over to the country of shadow. That was also the entrance to the space-time tunnel. However, it did not open the space-time door. Instead, it sucked Wu Ming in. If nothing went wrong, this energy ball would enter the door. Interesting, Wu Ming's claw reached out and grabbed the energy ball. The energy ball seemed to have no consciousness. It followed Wuming's claw and slowly fused with Wuming. At the same time, a stream of knowledge-like memories surged into Wuming's mind. This is a game. Wuming was slightly surprised. After all, I've encountered such a strange thing. How can I not take a look? With that, Wuming entered the space-time door that opened and disappeared. Then, the space-time door closed as if it had never existed. Wuming opened his eyes. What entered his eyes was a huge hole. The hole was mainly dark. Flags of different designs were hung high on the ceiling. The top and the sides were covered with crystals that acted as light bulbs. Wuming was facing a huge, gorgeous door. A red carpet extended all the way to his feet. At this moment, Wuming was sitting on a crystal throne in his human form. The back of the throne extended all the way to the roof. The throne was on a platform with 3 steps. The carpet climbed up the steps to Wuming's throne. Below the platform stood an old man who looked like a butler. Behind him stood 6 maids in combat attire. Next to the throne, next to Wuming, there was a woman wearing a long white dress that covered her feet. There was a spiderweb-like golden silk ornament on her chest, and white silk gloves on her hands. Her beautiful black hair reached her waist, and there was a pair of white curved horns on both sides of her head. She looked like a demon, and there was a pair of black wings at the back of her waist. Wuming happened to recognize this creature. It was obviously a succubus. Seeing Wuming looking at her, the succubus smiled and asked, "What's wrong, Sir Wuming?" However, the smile on her face made Wuming feel awkward. He felt like he was being stared at. "I feel a slight fluctuation outside the underground tomb of Nazalek. Inform all the guardians to gather here tomorrow at this time." After that, Wuming got up and walked to the door. "Yes, Sir Wuming." The succubus smiled at Wuming. "You can do whatever you want with the rest of the time." "Yes, Sir Wuming." This was the answer from the rest of the people in the room. Creak. The heavy door was pushed open. Wuming opened the door in front of him. "Then, let me calm down first." Following the data stored in his mind, Wuming came to a room. When he opened the door, he saw a luxurious royal bedroom. Wuming flew and threw himself on the luxurious bed in front of him. This is giving me a headache. What Nazalek, Yggdrasil, completely virtual reality game. The unknown energy ball that Wuming came into contact with in the time tunnel was actually a guild stronghold in a virtual reality game invented by humans in another world. The name of the guild was Nazalek's Underground Tomb. Because of the shutdown of the server, the guild leader guarded it alone until a second before the server shut down. Due to an unknown accident, the guild brought the soul of the human to this world. Because of Wuming's accidental contact, the soul of the human was repelled and sent back to the original world. Wuming replaced him and came to this world. Let's not talk about the power of this world first. I'm very curious about what interesting things will happen when the game transforms into a physical object. For example, even if the resurrection was considered a miracle in the world of the moon, it should be very common in the game. Then, what will happen when the game transforms into a physical object? Wuming turned around and patted his arm. "Enkidu, are you okay?" A silver chain appeared on Wuming's arm, flashing with a faint golden light. "Yes, Master Wuming, I'm fine. I didn't expect to be able to travel with you." This chain was Enkidu's transformation. Previously in Uruk, Wuming used the Lune runes and his own transformation to successfully deceive the gods. After Enkidu used a secret technique to create the heaven lock, Enkidu, Wuming wrapped it around his hand. Rather than being put into Dragon's Nest, by Master Wuming, I'd rather be in Master Wuming's hand. Therefore, Wuming wrapped the heaven lock, Enkidu, around his hand. Wuming touched the heaven lock, Enkidu, and said slowly, "It's been hard on you, Xiao-en. No, to be able to follow Master Wuming, I was created as a weapon. My wish is to be treated as a person by Master, to be loved by Master, and to be used by Master. Right now, I'm really happy. The heaven lock, Enkidu, flashed and spoke, revealing her everything. Xiao An, go and rest first. It's your first time going through the space-time tunnel, so you're probably still not used to it. Yes, Master Wuming, I'll go and rest first. As she spoke, the heaven lock, Enkidu, dimmed and became the same as a normal chain. Then, let's take a look at this guild's information. As he spoke, Wuming closed his eyes and began to look at the data in his mind. After a long time, Wuming opened his eyes. I see, this guild is quite interesting. The underground tomb of Nazalik was originally a checkpoint, but because it was conquered by the first members of Anziergong, the system reward became a stronghold, which was a guild. After the modification of the members of Anziergong's guild, it created the entire underground tomb of Nazalik, Anziergong's large guild. I wonder how strong the otherworld Anziergong transmigrated to is. I'll go and find out after tomorrow's meeting. As he spoke, Wuming fell asleep. Please don't dream of Merlin. Chapter 32. The next day, Wuming woke up early in the morning. Wuming had arrived at the underground tomb of Nazalik late last night. In addition, Wuming had traveled through time and space for a long time. After a night of rest, he was no longer tired. Because the order from yesterday was to gather at night, Wuming decided to walk around the underground tomb of Nazalik himself. Wuming picked up a ring from the table and put it on his finger. Move to the first floor. In an instant, Wuming's figure flickered and disappeared. That ring was the guild ring of the underground tomb of Nazalik, Ains Wurgong. Other than entering the underground tomb of Nazalik to verify his identity, it also had the ability to move around the underground tomb of Nazalik without restriction. What entered his eyes was a hall filled with stone coffins. Stone pillars supported the hall and were evenly distributed around the hall. The stone coffins were also distributed according to the ratio. Wuming could clearly sense that every sarcophagus had a magical reaction, as well as the reactions of unseen creatures around them. They were probably the monsters guarding the first floor of the underground tomb of Nazalik. As expected of the underground tomb of Nazalik. Let's not talk about the strength of these monsters. Just looking at them is enough to scare people. Wuming didn't care about this and continued to walk toward the door of the hall. As soon as he walked out, he saw a slightly desolate courtyard. Although it was called a courtyard, it was actually a graveyard. Stone tablets were erected in the courtyard. Needless to say, the ground in the courtyard was filled with monsters. The courtyard was surrounded by a 3-meter-tall wall. In front of Wuming was the entrance to the graveyard. At this moment, it was daytime in this world. Wuming looked at the vast sky and couldn't help but sigh. As expected, no matter which world it is, the sky is beautiful. After staying on the first floor for a while, Wuming observed the second to the 8th floor. He had to admit that the people of Ains Wurgong had all kinds of strange tastes. There were a total of 10 levels in Nazalik's underground tomb. The first 3 levels were the graveyard, which fit the name of a tomb. The 4th floor was a massive underground lake. This floor was a little special, as there were no NPCs here. This was because the NPC on this floor was Graham, a large stone puppet with no self-awareness. Activating it required a lot of time. The 5th level was an ice field, where the cold winds were fierce and bone-chilling. The 6th floor was a jungle, but there was an arena in the middle of the jungle. The structure was very similar to the Colosseum in Rome. The 7th floor was a lava zone, and the temperature was frighteningly high. The 8th floor was a wasteland. The NPCs on this floor were also special. As for what was special about them, that would be explained later. The 9th floor, which was the floor where Wuming had slept last night, was a royal suite. After all, this was originally a guild stronghold in the game. Players would also enjoy it, so this floor was set up. The 10th floor was between the thrones that Wu Ming had been in when he arrived at the underground tomb of Nazalek yesterday. This floor was the room. It wasn't big and was only used for decoration. After all, the players discussed things on the 9th floor. The 10th floor was just a symbolic building. After strolling around, it was almost time for the scheduled gathering. Wu Ming directly teleported to the throne on the 10th floor. The scene in front of him changed, and Wu Ming arrived in front of the throne. There were all kinds of members of the opposite sex gathered under the throne. Demons, bugmen, dark elves, vampires, and so on. He saw the succubus who had served the throne yesterday arguing with a girl in a dark purple princess dress. The girl's skin was as pale as a corpse. Only the skin on her hands and face was exposed. The rest of her body was wrapped in clothes. Her silver hair was tied into a ponytail behind her head, and the princess dress on her lower body bulged like a cake. I remember. She seems to be the guardian of the 1st to 3rd floors. Because they saw Wu Ming's arrival, everyone quickly stood in a row. Everyone, offer your loyalty to the Supreme One. The succubus ordered, and the guardians began to kneel on one knee to greet Wu Ming. Guardian of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors, Shadya Bradford. Greetings, Lord Wu Ming. The first was the girl who was arguing with the succubus. Guardian of the 5th floor, Cositas. Greetings, Lord Wu Ming. Cositas was a huge blue insect with iceberg-like armor on its back and shoulders. Guardian of the 6th floor, Yon Bella Fiora. Greetings, Lord Wu Ming. A dark elf who wore men's clothes and spoke cheerfully and looked like a boy. Same guardian of the 6th floor, Mare Bella Fiora. Greetings, Lord Wu Ming. This was a dark elf who wore women's clothes and spoke shyly and nervously, looking like a girl. The guardians of the 6th floor were a pair of dark elf twins. That's right, the older sister in men's clothes and the younger brother in women's clothes. If Wu Ming hadn't read the information, he wouldn't have thought that the nervous, shy, introverted mare in cute women's clothes was a boy. Guardian of the 7th floor, Demiurgos. Greetings, Lord Wu Ming. Demiurgos wore a British suit and had a metal tail on his back. The tip of the tail was burning with a faint black flame. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and had slightly pointed ears. If one didn't look at the tail behind him, anyone would think that he was an outstanding businessman. Chief Guardian, Yair Bella. Greetings, Lord Wu Ming. The succubus from yesterday, Yair Bella, lowered her head and reported to Wu Ming. What's going on? This gaze is comparable to Maeve's. I really don't know what the player who designed Yair Bella is doing. Other than the guardian of the 4th floor, Kagandua, and the guardian of the 8th floor, Victim, all the guardians of the other floors are in front of you. Supreme, please give the order. We will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Wu Ming sat on the throne and looked at them quietly. After a moment, Wu Ming spoke. The main reason I called you here today is to tell you about the situation in the underground tomb of Nazalek. The guardians raised their heads slightly and looked up at Wu Ming. The underground tomb of Nazalek has been moved to another world due to an accident. Looking around at the guardians, Wu Ming continued. I took a look this morning. The underground tomb of Nazalek is on a plain. There are no signs of activity within a kilometer of it. This is undoubtedly a good thing. The reason why Wu Ming stayed on the 1st floor was because Wu Ming used magic to detect the surroundings of the tomb. As aberrations, if we were moved to a human gathering place, it would be troublesome. In the game Yggdrasil, there were only 3 races for players. Humans, subhumans, and aberrations. Humans were categorized as dwarves, elves, and so on. Subhumans were categorized as goblins, ogres, and so on. As long as they were not humans or subhumans, they were all aberrations. For example, slimes, bugmen, demons, and so on. Of course, Wuming was a dragon in the minds of these NPCs. He used a secret technique to switch between human and dragon forms. From now on, the underground tomb of Nazalek is on the highest alert. Yes, Lord Wuming. Now, let's talk about your problems. Chapter 33. There was a long hole in the wall in front of Wuming that looked like a cupboard. There was a twisted scepter floating in the hole. The tip of the scepter was in the shape of a cup, and there were 7 snakes coiled clockwise in the cup. Finally, the snake heads poked out of the cup, and each snake had a gem in its mouth. The 7 gems of different colors shone with a mesmerizing light. Wuming reached out his hand, and the scepter automatically floated into Wuming's hand. Holding the twisted scepter, Wuming looked at the twisted black and purple souls that appeared in the cup of the scepter. He could not help but feel helpless at Ains Urgong's bad taste. This should be a guild weapon, right? The so-called guild weapon referred to the core of a guild. Once the guild weapon was destroyed, the guild would disintegrate. Therefore, guild weapons were usually placed in the core of the guild for protection. However, Ains Urgong's guild weapon was a powerful weapon. According to the information, the staff of Ains Urgong itself was a divine weapon. The 7 gems and the 7 snakes at the tip of the scepter were also rare divine weapons, and it was a set of equipment. The power of the 7 gems was not just 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 7, but it was far greater than that. This made the staff of Ains Urgong comparable to a world-class item, or even greater. Yggdrasil, World Tree, S weapon grade classification was as follows: low grade, mid grade, high grade, heritage grade, relic, legendary grade, and divine weapons. Divine weapons were generally top grade, but Yggdrasil, World Tree, had world-class items. The so-called world-class items were the 200 top-grade items in Yggdrasil, World Tree. The power of these top-grade items could only be matched by other world-class items. Among the 200 top-grade items, the strongest 20 world-class items were specially called 20. These 20 items had the ability to severely disrupt the game's balance. Because of this, these 20 world-class items could only be used once. After using them, they would disappear. In the game, these 20 world-class items would disappear after being used. After that, they would reappear somewhere in the Yggdrasil, World Tree. According to Wuming's memories, Ains Urgong was the guild with the highest number of world-class items. They currently had a total of 11 world-class items. Originally, they had 12 world-class items, but one of them was taken away by an enemy guild. In the Yggdrasil game, the guild with the second highest number only had 3 world-class items. From this, it could be seen how powerful Ains Urgong was. Among the 11 world-class items that belonged to Ains Urgong, 2 of them were ranked 20 world-class items. These 2 world-class items were stipulated by the guild members that they could only be used when the enemy used an item of the same level. The Staff of Anzi-Urgen. Wuming could not help but sigh. Wuming couldn't help but think as he looked at the large amount of information about the scepter. The people of Ains Urgong must really love their guild. After all, the process of making this scepter was too difficult. If it were not for the difficulties of daily life, Wuming believed that the members of Ains Urgong would have persevered until the server was shut down. If that's the case, let me strengthen the name of Ains Urgong, Wuming said as he raised the staff of Anzi-Urgen. This could be considered as a form of consolation for these NPCs who had lost their parents. After Wuming stored the staff of Anzi-Urgen into Dragon's Nest, he used the ring of Anzi-Urgen to teleport to an office-like room. At this moment, Demiurgos was already waiting in the office. Seeing Wuming arrive, Demiurgos quickly knelt down on one knee. Master Wuming. Wuming waved his hand to signal Demiurgos to get up. Get up, Demiurgos. You don't have to kneel every time you see me, just bow. Yes, Master Wuming. Demiurgos stood up and put the paper in his hand on the desk. Master Wuming, these are the statistics of Nazarik's underground tomb and the preparation plan for exploring the surroundings of Nasarik. Please take a look. Hearing this, Wuming sat in the office chair behind the desk. He picked up the information that Demiurgos had compiled and began to read. The overall performance of Nazarik's underground tomb hasn't changed, but the consumption of gold coins is lacking. Wuming asked without raising his head. Why, is Nasarik running out of gold coins? Demiurgos also shook his head. No, after the other guardians and I tested all of Nazarik's production performance, we only suffered a slight loss of gold coins. However, we can no longer obtain Yggdrasil, World Tree, gold coins. After a while, Nasarik will be in danger. I don't know if the gold coins of this world can be used for Nazarik's underground tomb, so I have stopped the consumption of unimportant gold coins. Wuming, who was still flipping through the information, heard this and the emblem on his arm flashed. Crash! A bag of jewelry and gold nuggets fell on the table. This is the treasure I collected from other places. Go and see if it can be used for Nazarik's operation. Yes. Demiurgos picked up the bag on the table. Regarding the exploration of Nazarik's surroundings, cancel the plan. I will go personally. Demiurgos was shocked and knelt down on one knee. No, how can we let Lord Wuming take the risk? If you are worried, you can let us guardians explore. Please take back your order. Putting down the information, Wuming said helplessly. Don't worry, Demiurgos, I will bring my men. In the current situation, it is wise to send the highest combat power. If there is an existence that even I can't defeat, it will be useless even if you go. Lord Wuming, you also said that there is an existence that even you can't defeat, so it is wise for us to explore. After that, Wuming and Demiurgos did not speak. A moment later. Get up, Demiurgos, I have made up my mind. At worst, I will bring Yaerbed. Yaerbed was Nazarik's guardian, so he had the strongest defense. Whether it was his own defense or the protection of a specific person, Yaerbed had the strongest defense. Yes, Lord Wuming, I wish you the best of luck. That's all. The plan will be implemented in 3 days. Let's first operate Nasarik properly. Yes. Then please forgive me for taking my leave. Go ahead. Demiurgos turned around and left the office. After that, Wuming leaned on the soft back of the chair and let out a long sigh of relief. This is a different world, a different world. How can I not take the risk? I am a traveler. 3 days later. In the library on the 9th floor. Wuming was tidying up all kinds of magic books. After all, there were many practical spells in Yggdrasil, such as detection, anti-reconnaissance spells, and teleportation gates, which were more practical for Wuming. Alright, that's all for now. As expected of one of the strongest guilds, the members of Ains Wugong really can't be underestimated. There were a lot of books in the library. Although more than half of the books were biographies and background stories, and some of them were guides. Magic books only took up a small portion, but the number of books was still shocking. Wuming had been reading for the past 3 days. He had only spent some time organizing the books to be stored in Dragonisht, but the collection of books did not affect the library at all. Yaerbed should be waiting for me in the throne room now. As he spoke, the ring of Ains Wugong on Wuming's hand lit up, and Wuming disappeared. Wuming's journey to the other world was about to begin. Chapter 34. On the endless grassland, a green creature that looked like a bear or a deer was running. Taking a closer look, the creature carried 2 people on its back, a man and a woman. The man had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing Sumer-style clothes and looked very exotic. The woman had black hair and golden vertical pupils. She had 2 twisted horns on her head. She was wearing a white dress and had a pair of black wings behind her waist and abdomen. Although the woman was beautiful, she was obviously not human. What a strange magical beast, Lord Wuming. Yair Abed sat on Fanbaba's back and praised. Is that so? Is there no such magical beast in Yggdrasil? Wuming lay on Fanbaba's back and basked in the sun. Well, although there are similar magical beasts, I have never heard of weapons and equipment turning into magical beasts. That's right, Fanbaba was the magical beast Fanbaba that Wuming took away when he left Babylon. It had already fused with Yggdrasil. Because the grassland was relatively large, Demiyugos chose a mount for Wuming to travel on. After Wuming refused, he took Yggdrasil out of Dragonist and made it appear as Fanbaba. Under the amazed gaze of the guardians, Wuming held the hand of Yair Abed, who had no regrets in his life, and sat on Fanbaba's back. After that, before the guardians could react, Wuming used the ring to teleport to the first floor of the great underground tomb of Nasaric, directly avoiding the guards that the guardians had assigned to Wuming. In the midst of the chaos, Wuming successfully escaped from Nasaric with Yair Abed. Now that I think about it, I have to let them complain for a while when I go back. Wuming patted Fanbaba's back and said directly. Fanbaba, determine the direction of someone's life and move in that direction. Woo! Fanbaba let out a low cry and ran faster. Because of Fanbaba's special ability and Yggdrasil's ability, Fanbaba could control things with the wood attribute, including detection and so on. Therefore, Wuming handed the task of finding people around Nasaric to Fanbaba. By the way, just call me Villo in front of outsiders. Yes, Lord Wuming. Yair Beta should lie down too. Fanbaba's back is very comfortable. Hearing this, Yair Beta's eyes lit up, and his expression became terrifying. Yes. Lord Wuming. Hey. What are you doing? Lie over there, don't be afraid to lie on me. That won't do, Lord Wuming. In order to prevent an enemy attack, I have to stay close to protect him. I think you're just taking advantage of me. Go away. Lord Wuming, what the hell is going on? Fanbaba, who was running, shook its head helplessly like a human and increased its speed again. Soon, Fanbaba stopped in a forest that was not too dense. Wuming, who was on its back, panted tiredly. Yair Beta, stop first. There's a situation in front. Yair Beta's face was also flushed and he was panting heavily. Yes, Lord Wuming. Wuming got down from Fanbaba's back and wanted to walk forward. What's going on with Yair Beta's character? Is the player who designed her a pervert? After getting rid of the messy thoughts in his heart, Wuming looked forward. Wuming took a closer look. Houses were lined up on a flat ground. There weren't many of them, only the number of a village. Although the houses were simple, they were full of vitality. However, the ground and walls of the village were now full of dark red liquid, which was disgusting. That's blood. Knights in full body armor wielded swords and killed unarmed villagers one after another. At this moment, a pair of sisters escaped from the village in the direction of this forest. However, behind the two of them were two soldiers. Coincidentally, the younger sister of the sisters fell because she was too young. Quick! Nim, get up quickly. We have to get out of here quickly. Because she often did farm work, the older sister's physical fitness was obviously much better than the younger sister. She pulled the younger sister up from the ground with a little strength. Okay, I know, sister. Nim said while holding back her tears. Okay, let's run. Just as the older sister was about to pull the younger sister and run again, an exasperated voice sounded. Run. Where do you think you're going? A knight who slaughtered the villagers stood behind the sisters. I can't believe I was delayed by you two brats. I'm so angry. The knight roared and swung his sword at the sisters. Nim. The older sister quickly hugged the younger sister. At the same time, she also closed her eyes. Clang! The expected pain did not come. Instead, there was a sound of metal colliding. How is this possible? The knight let out a panicked voice. The young girl boldly turned around and saw a black-haired, black-eyed young man wearing a foreign race's costume standing in front of the knight. The knight's sword was firmly held by the young man. Seeing this, the young girl widened her eyes. I thought it was some special event. In the end, this is some high-level conspiracy. Wu Ming said in boredom. With Wu Ming's many years of experience in politics, he could almost guess why the knight slaughtered the villagers for no reason. Just in time to try out the magic I learned these few days. Wu Ming exerted force in his hand and said softly. Dragon thunder. A large amount of blue lightning emerged from Wu Ming's body and passed through the sword in Wu Ming's hand to the knight's body. Ah! The knight screamed and then fell to the ground. His body was emitting black smoke as if he was roasted. Seems like the strength of this world isn't very high. Wu Ming thought. I'm a monster. The other knight who was chasing after saw his companion die in an instant. He screamed in fear and turned around to escape. Wu Ming waved his hand. The knight who did not have time to escape was instantly wrapped by thick vines that grew out from the ground. Blood flowed out from the gaps in the vines. Seriously, can a knight like you be called a knight? You're a disgrace to the knights. Wu Ming said in disdain. Woo! Fan Baba slowly walked out from behind Wu Ming. So beautiful. The two sisters who had never seen such a sacred Fan Baba exclaimed. Wu Ming laughed involuntarily. After all, Fan Baba was known as a divine beast. Are you two okay? Wu Ming asked. We're fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. As the elder sister, the girl quickly thanked Wu Ming. The younger sister next to her also did the same. Right, sir, please save our villagers. After the girl thanked Wu Ming, she suddenly remembered the villagers who were still suffering and sorrowfully begged Wu Ming. Please. The girl's younger sister continued in her slightly clumsy but cute way. Wu Ming looked at the two sisters and said sternly. I know, you two come with me. Thank you, sir. Just as Wu Ming was about to leave with the two sisters, Ye Bade, who had finished changing his equipment, suddenly spoke. Please wait, Sir Villo. Chapter 35. What's wrong, Ye Bade? Wu Ming asked. Wu Ming looked at Ye Bade, who was wearing a full body armor, and asked. Lord Vero, you are an honorable supreme. These lowly humans are not worthy of your protection. Please allow me to execute them. Then, Ye Bade raised the black axe in his hand. Wait a minute, Ye Bade. Wu Ming sighed helplessly. Whether they are worthy of my protection or not, let's talk about it after the crusade against the enemy. After a moment of silence, Ye Bade put down his axe. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. The sisters looked at the master and servant in front of them, as if they hadn't reacted yet, and didn't say anything. Fan Baba. Woo! With Wu Ming's order, Fan Baba behind him began to move toward the village. The scene changed, and the armored knights were still wantonly slaughtering the villagers. Screams, cries of fear, begging for mercy, and wild laughter were incessant. Ah! Suddenly, one of the knights seemed to have encountered something and let out a scream. What happened? A knight who seemed to be a captain and didn't have a mask on his helmet shouted. What? What is this? Don't come over. Ah. Many huge vines as thick as a person grew under the feet of the knights, and wrapped around the soldiers one after another. The knights screamed and began to pray to the gods. God! Please save me. My God, ah, ah, ah. Lord God. Then, the knights who were wrapped by the vines stopped making any noise. Only the huge tree stumps formed by the vines were left. What the hell is this? The captain was still rational and began to issue orders. Prepare to retreat. Send the signal for the horses and archers to come over. However, it was already too late. The huge vines sped up their growth, and soon, all the knights' feet were entangled. Quick! Come and save me! Another guy, who was also not wearing a mask like the captain, shouted from the side. I'm not someone who should die here. Quick! Save me! No matter what, it doesn't matter if it's your health or anything else. Hurry up and save me. The squad leader couldn't believe that the guy who was yelling hysterically could be heard. Captain Balius, he said in surprise. Suddenly, a light, low voice was heard. Woo! A huge green creature that looked like a bear or a deer slowly walked over. What is that? The captain, who was still rational, asked in surprise. The green creature stomped its foot, and the vines instantly wrapped around the wailing knights. In an instant, only the captain who was still rational was left. The sword in the captain's hand fell to the ground. He had completely given up. The vines had already wrapped around his lower body. Don't worry, those soldiers are still alive. The squad leader raised his head in surprise to see a young man walking over from afar. After all, I still need to obtain information from you. Wu Ming waved his hand, and vines began to slowly wrap around the knight's upper body. Is that so? Thank you for sparing my life. However, I believe that my companion won't do anything. Ugh, the vines had completely wrapped around the soldier. You're the only one who still looks like a knight. Wu Ming said calmly. The rest of the villagers fell into a dead silence. After a while, under the arrangement of the village chief, the villagers temporarily rested in the undamaged houses. The village chief, on the other hand, welcomed Wu Ming. In the village chief's house, Wu Ming picked up the simple cup of water provided by the village chief, took a sip, and listened to the village chief introduce the village. Khan Village. Is it? Yes, Khan Village's geographical location is not very good. It happens to be in the middle of 3 countries. The village chief said with a hint of sadness. After some questioning, Wu Ming lied that he was a magic chanter who cultivated deep in the mountains. Wu Ming originally said that he was a magician, but it seemed that in this world, people who used magic and magic were called magic chanters, so Wu Ming called himself a magic chanter. Wu Ming used information as a reward to offset the village chief's suspicion. After all, in this village where no one knew when something would happen, it was really hard to be at ease. According to the village chief, Khan village belonged to the Restige kingdom, and was located in the southeast corner of the kingdom. The Restige kingdom, the Baha''s empire, and the human supremacy of the Syrian theocracy were located in the middle of the mountain range that ran through the north and south. According to the map provided by the village chief, the kingdom was in the northwest corner, the empire was in the northeast, and the theocracy was in the south of the 2 kingdoms. Khan village was in the middle of the 3 kingdoms. The kingdom and the empire were not on good terms, and there would be war all year round. The location of the war was in the plains near the border city of the Restige kingdom, Yalantir. According to the village chief, the knights who slaughtered the villagers were given the empire's badge, so it could be inferred that it was the empire's so-called. However, Wu Ming felt that it was not that simple. After all, the village chief also said that the kingdom and the empire were at war all year round, and there was no benefit for the empire to slaughter the villages at the border of the kingdom. Moreover, these knights were praying to the gods before they were wrapped in vines. It seems that I have fallen into some conspiracy again. After asking the village chief for the necessary information, Wu Ming bid farewell to the village chief and went out. Lord Wu Ming. Yair Bade had been guarding outside the door. As for Funbaba, Wuming asked it to check if there were any other enemies in the surroundings. After all, the captain just said that he was going to send a signal. I have gathered enough information. In short, the underground tomb of Nasarick is safe in this world for the time being. Yes. What should we do with the inferior creatures that were captured by your magic beasts? Wuming pondered for a moment and asked. Summon the subordinates of Nasarick who have special invisibility skills and transport all the knights to Nasarick. Funbaba just told me that there are still some knights nearby that have been captured by Funbaba. Also, transport those knights to Nasarick and get more information from them. Yes, Lord Wuming. I will contact Demiyugos right away. Yair placed his hand on his temple near his ear and began to contact Demiyugos. Oh right, remember not to kill them first. Also, do some anti-reconnaissance work. After all, we don't know if these people have tracking magic or something like that on them. Yes, Lord Wuming. After saying that, Wuming walked away and began to walk around the village. As he walked, Wuming heard a lot of crying. Wuming looked and saw that it was the families of the dead villagers. Among them were the sisters that Wuming saved. They were crying on the corpses of their loved ones. Sigh. I am used to seeing people die. In the end, I still can't help but feel melancholy over tears. Whether it was in Connaught or Camelot, Wuming was used to seeing all kinds of deaths. In the end, Wuming still felt melancholy over these things. It wasn't that he was sad. It was just that he couldn't stand it. I remember that your name is Only, right? Wuming half squatted in front of the sister that Wuming saved. Yes. Yes, Lord. The girl named Only choked and said. Don't cry. In any case, I am a powerful magic caster. I have a way to revive your loved ones. As soon as he said that, the villagers who had lost their loved ones all knelt on the ground and begged Wuming. Lord Villo, please save my son. Lord Villo, please save my sister. All right, all of you, get up. Move the villagers' corpses to an empty space. Hearing that, the villagers started to move. Yair, who had finished talking with Dimi Rogoth, walked over and asked Wuming in confusion. Lord Villo, are you going to use a rare resurrection tool to revive these lowly worms? Hearing that, Wuming couldn't help but laugh. All right, Yair. Although I am not a human, I like humans very much. Moreover, I am going to use the resurrection magic that I have learned. I will not use a resurrection tool. Besides, I don't have one, but, Lord Villo, all right, Yair. Wuming interrupted Yair speech. If I die, you will definitely try your best to revive me, just like how these villagers begged me. Put yourself in my shoes and forgive my stubbornness. After that, Yair didn't say anything else. Chapter 36. The villagers had already moved the corpses to the village square. Everyone made way for Wuming and waited quietly for him to cast the spell. Although I also learned a resurrection spell because of interest, I have never tried it before. I don't know if it will work on these villagers. Wuming shook his head and walked forward. The sixth order spell, Angel's Return. Wuming accidentally saw this spell in Nazarik's library. In the Yggdrasil, world tree, magic was divided into 10 levels. There were 1st to 10th level spells. In Yggdrasil, there was also a supreme level spell, which was the 11th level spell. Supreme level spells were more like skills than magic. There were many restrictions. Not only did it take time to cast, but there was also a limit to the number of times it could be used per day, and it could not be cast continuously. The cooldown after casting could not be offset in Yggdrasil, whether it was a Krypton item or something else, it could not offset the cooldown time. Of course, these were all obtained from Wuming's data memory. Wuming chanted the name of the spell, waved his hand, and a holy light rose into the sky. The light shot into the sky and gathered into a large sacred cloud. The cloud transformed into the appearance of an angel. A large number of sacred white feathers slowly fell on the villagers' corpses and integrated into the villagers' bodies. The angel made a sacred and indescribable sound toward the sky and dissipated. After the villagers' corpses merged with the feathers, the wounds on their bodies disappeared, and their skin color changed from pale to healthy. Under the villagers' excited eyes, the corpses that were originally lying on the ground opened their eyes one by one. The family members of the resurrected villagers, including Onli and her sister, rushed up with the villagers' cheers and hugged their family members fiercely. The sixth order spell is so powerful, it scared me. It seems that I have to go back to Nasariq to find some items to use. Wuming did not expect this spell to be so amazing. After all, the dragon thunder that Wuming used before was also a sixth order spell. Wuming Sama, Yauda has been waiting outside the village with the special forces. At this time, Yauda walked behind Wuming. Stay low for now, I don't think it will be so simple this time. Yes. Wuming couldn't help but sigh as he turned to look at the villagers who were crying with joy. To be able to see you all so happy, my efforts have not been in vain. After all, ever since Wuming could remember, he had always thought that he was a human being. After knowing that he wasn't, Wuming still had special feelings for humans. After settling down the villagers who had just been revived, the village chief grabbed Wuming's hand and thanked him profusely. Thank you so much, Sir Villo. Wuming felt a little helpless against such a village chief. All right. Village chief, you've thanked me enough. Village chief, you've just suffered a disaster. You should go and arrange the situation of the village. All right, Sir Villo, thank you so much. Just as Wuming was about to say something polite, a villager suddenly ran over. Not good, village chief. A group of cavalrymen is approaching. What? This. Sir Villo. Seeing the village chief's expression, how could Wuming not know what was going on? I understand, village chief. Let the villagers hide first. I'll go with you to see what's going on. All right. After a while, Wuming and the village chief stood at the entrance of the village. A group of cavalrymen with different equipment rode over. The leader was a man in his 30s. The man rode his horse to the front of Wuming and the village chief and said, I'm Gejif Stolanov, the head warrior of the Riesti kingdom. I heard that there were cavalrymen from the empire causing trouble nearby. I've been ordered by the king to suppress them. I'm currently patrolling the villages. The head warrior of the kingdom. The village chief said in shock. Wuming looked at the village chief in confusion. The village chief hurriedly said. That. I've only heard that the head warrior of the kingdom is the strongest man in the kingdom. That's just the king's love and respect. It's just a title, not worth mentioning. Gejif looked at Wuming again. May I know who you are? Nice to meet you, head warrior of the kingdom. My name is Villo Silenst. I'm a magic chanter who was passing by and saw the village chief being slaughtered. I'm here to help. As if he heard something unbelievable, Gejif quickly got off his horse and walked to Wuming. He held Wuming's hands. Thank you so much for saving this village. Looking at Gejif's sincere eyes, Wuming was stunned for a moment. Seems like he's a good official who cares about the people. I'll save him. You're welcome, head warrior. Suddenly, someone from Gejif's troop ran over. Head warrior, there are many figures nearby. They're closing in on the village. Seeing this, everyone frowned. Seems like someone can't sit still. Soon, Gejif's troop and Wuming retreated to the outermost house of the village chief. Wuming looked at Gejif, who was observing the situation outside, and asked directly. Who are those people outside? Gejif retracted his gaze and looked at Wuming. To be able to mobilize so many magic chanters, it could only be the Si Lien cult. And it's a special troop directly under the head priest, one of the Si Lien cult's 6 color holy books. After hearing this, it seemed to confirm Wu Ming's thoughts. Seems like they're coming for you, head warrior. Gejif was stunned for a moment. After thinking carefully, he realized that they were really coming for him. Oh, I didn't expect the cult to want to get rid of me. After that, Wu Ming said with a smile. You're very lucky, head warrior. What do you mean? Gejif was puzzled. Seeing that you have a good temper, I've decided to help you. Hearing this, Gejif was overjoyed. Really, Lord Silenst? Thank you so much. After all, Gejif and the others had learned from the village chief that Wu Ming had a very powerful magic beast. Then, head warrior, please wait for me here. As he said that, Wu Ming began to walk out of the house. Wait, Lord Silenst. No matter what, they have the advantage in numbers, please don't be rash. Gejif still felt that it was better to be cautious and advised Wu Ming. Don't worry, head warrior. Also, just call me Villo. Silenst is too long. As he said that, he left the house with Yerbade and advanced towards the enemy. Lord Villo. Gejif looked at the two with a complicated gaze. Slowly, Wu Ming brought Yerbade to a very close distance with the enemy. The enemy did not seem to be afraid of Wu Ming and did not stop them. Suddenly, the atmosphere was tense. Chapter 37. Negan Gullible Luin, as the head sergeant of the Light Scripture, one of the 6 color scriptures of the Si Lien theocracy, Negan never thought that he would fail or die in a place like this. After all, he was the head priest of the Light Scripture. The report said that the knight who was wrapped in vines was killed by the demonic beast under the command of that man. Negan looked at the man and woman walking over and immediately gave an order. Attack! The other priests immediately took action. The mechanical creatures that looked like angels raised their lightsabers and flew towards Wu Ming and Yerbade. However, when these angels approached the two, they were destroyed by an invisible attack. They turned into starlight and disappeared in the air. What? Not only was Negan shocked, but the other priests were also shocked. The angel army was destroyed in an instant, and it was done using an unknown method. A sense of crisis rushed into Negan's mind, and he immediately summoned the High Angel, the Surveillance Angel, to go forward and meet the attack. Surveillance Angel. After hearing the order, the angel floating behind Negan, who was much bigger than the other angel, summoned a staff. Under Wu Ming's slightly crumbling expression, the Surveillance Angel used the short staff to smash down on Wu Ming. That's right, it smashed down with the short staff. Pang! Wu Ming grabbed the short staff and said with a forced smile. Summoning a staff to smash people. I don't know what to say anymore. While everyone in Negan was shocked that Wu Ming caught the Surveillance Angel's attack with one hand, Wu Ming pointed at the angel in front of him. Heavenly fire. In the blink of an eye, the Surveillance Angel was completely enveloped by a large amount of holy light golden flames until everything was reduced to nothingness. WH. What? The High Angel was hit in one hit. Negan couldn't believe his eyes. Wu Ming had been through so much, but he didn't have many means of fighting. When he was in Ireland and Britain, Wu Ming only relied on his own martial arts and the noble phantoms in his hands, namely the powerful Silver, Meteor Silver, and Yggdrasil, that could control plants and vitality, and some loon magic. In Babylon, Wu Ming, who transformed into a dragon, relied on the power of faith of the Babylonians. After all, after Wu Ming left, faith could no longer be used. That was the limitation of faith. The root dragon that was not in Babylon was no longer the Babylon Hyunryong, but the legendary root dragon. That was the limitation of faith. After that, Wu Ming came to this world. Thinking about it carefully, Wu Ming's abilities were as follows: martial arts and wisdom, loon magic, that he learned from Skaha, Silver, Meteor Silver, S light cannon, Yggdrasil, ability to control plants and vitality, Funbaba that fused with Yggdrasil, Enkidu's heaven lock that wrapped around his arm, and the magic that he just learned from Nazarik's library. Ignoring his martial arts and noble phantoms, in a situation where he was empty-handed, other than the loon magic and the magic that he just learned from Yggdrasil, world treat, game, he had no other means of attack. Funbaba was included in the noble phantoms. Enkidu was still in a deep sleep because he was not used to the space-time tunnel. Although he was in a deep sleep, Wuming could still use Heaven Lock. The loon magic required the engraving of the loon runes before it could be activated. The invisible attack from before was the magic that Wuming engraved on the way here. Therefore, the only magic that could be used now was the magic in Yggdrasil, world treat, game. After all, the 1st to 10th tier spells were all instantaneous. With Wuming's magical power as the root dragon, even if he was a young root dragon, his magical power was incomparably huge. At the very least, it would take him more than a year to continuously cast a 10th tier spell before he ran out of magical power, and that was excluding the fact that Wuming could recover his magical power. Logically speaking, Wuming should not be able to learn the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree. After all, Wuming was not a player. It seemed that it was because of the bloodline of the root dragon. As long as there was a grimoire or someone to teach him, learning the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree, was very easy for Wuming. By the way, although Wuming was often injured, the body of a young root dragon was actually abnormally tough. If Artoria wanted to break through Wuming's defense with Excalibur, she would have to use her noble phantoms. Moreover, that was only breaking through his defense. If she wanted to seriously injure Wuming, she would have to use an unknown but abnormally powerful black gas like Morgan Le Fay. Of course, ever since he was corroded by the black gas, Wuming's resistance to things like poisons and curses had basically reached the limit. To put it simply, regardless of the level of the poisons or curses in the world, they could no longer affect Wuming. This was the characteristic of the root dragon that was born from the root of all worlds. Otherwise, those that could transform into dragons would be called root dragons. For example, special abilities such as traveling through space and time without being affected, and learning the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree, that should not be able to learn, were all brought about by the bloodline of the root dragon. Don't worry. If this thing doesn't die after being hit by a tier 9 magic, I'll have to look at it in a different light, Wuming said with a wave of his hand. Although Nasarik was an alien guild, the spells that the members of the guild organized were not only of the Dark series. That Skyfire, just now, was a faith-type spell. Although it was strange to use faith-type magic to attack an angel, Wuming did not think too much about it. That Skyfire spell had a special ability that increased its attack power on non-human enemies. In Yggdrasil, World Tree, apart from races such as humans, elves, and dwarves, demi-humans, aliens such as orcs, goblins, ogres, vampires, bugmen, demons, and dragons all had attack power. Coupled with the support of Wuming's powerful magic, how could a mere level 45 monster withstand it? That's right, Yerbade was the one who told Wuming the monster's level. According to Yerbade, there were such monsters in Yggdrasil, World Tree. Is it a coincidence, or? Wuming pondered. What? Tier 9 magic. How is that possible? Negan shouted as he broke down. Mama, calm down. You're the leader of these priests after all, Wuming said with a smile. Impossible. How could anyone know a tier 9 magic? Negan seemed to have broken down as he took out a crystal from his pocket. Item. I remember that crystal item seems to be used to seal spells from the 1st to the 10th level. After thinking for a while, Wuming swung his arm and a silver chain flew out from Wuming's palm. Before Negan could react, the chain snatched the crystal item from Negan's hand. After putting away Enkidu, Wuming looked at the item in his hand and then tossed it to Yerbade, who was beside him. Go back and see what's inside. Yes, Lord. Lord Villo. Then, Wu Ming looked at Negan's group. As for you. Just as Wu Ming was about to say something, the sky shattered like a piece of glass in front of Wu Ming's group. Just in case, I even learned a high-level counterintelligence spell called mirror reflection. The motherland is spying on me. Negan was in disbelief. Wait. Negan suddenly shouted as if he had broken down. Sir. No. My lord, no, I'm fine by myself, please let me go, I'll give you any amount of money, I beg you. Don't embarrass yourself here, lowly creature. Yair Bade suddenly shouted. The only thing you can do now is to quietly kneel on the ground and gratefully accept Lord Villo's gift of death. Low-class, creature. Purgatory said in an uncertain tone. Maw. Since Yair Bade said so. Wu Ming closed his eyes and opened them again. A golden vertical pupil appeared in Wu Ming's eyes. Accept your fate, lowly creature. Chapter 38. Under Wu Ming's orders, Yo captured the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight and brought them back to Nasarick. Wu Ming used the excuse that the sacred scripture of sunlight could be resurrected to order Yo not to kill the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight. This was cruel to the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight. After all, Nasarick was an alien guild created by a group of insane gamers. After Nasarick transformed into a physical body, Nazarik's interrogation methods were devastating. Moreover, Wu Ming had ordered them not to kill the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight. It was obvious that the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight had been offended. However, this had nothing to do with Wu Ming. The battle between Wu Ming and the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight was witnessed by some villagers and Gujiafu. Wu Ming used the excuse of feeding the magical beasts to transfer the members of the sacred scripture of sunlight to Nasarick. Since he had gathered enough information about this world, Wu Ming decided to bid farewell. Is that so? Is Lord Villo leaving? Gujiafu asked thoughtfully. Lord Villo, I would like to thank you again. Thank you for saving my parents. Thank you. Anli and Nim heard that Wu Ming was leaving and hurried over to express their gratitude to Wu Ming. Wu Ming could only smile helplessly. Oh yes, Anli, I have something for you. Wu Ming extended his hand to Yo Bade. Yes. Yo Bade took out two objects that were the size of a cow's horn and handed them to Wu Ming. This is a flute that can summon goblins. Use it well. Anli was taken aback. She wanted to reject the gift, but Wu Ming stuffed it into her hands. Lord Villo, this is too precious. It was a magical item, and it was extremely powerful for a village girl like Anli. Just take it. It's not a very valuable item, Wu Ming said with a smile. Wu Ming was not wrong. These were the tools that he had asked Yair Baird to bring out from Nasarick. According to the information in Wu Ming's mind, these two pairs of flutes could only summon a dozen low-level goblins. Of course, that was in the game. Though the low-level goblins weren't enough to protect the village, the goblins could teach the villagers how to defend themselves. Although Khan village was not too far away from Nazarik's underground tomb, Wu Ming did not plan to protect Khan village forever. As for who to give the item to, Wu Ming undoubtedly gave it to the pair of sisters he met first. Sir Villo, are you interested in going to King's City with me? Gujiafu suddenly asked. May I know why you are inviting me? From the battle between you and those people, I can see that Sir Villo is a very powerful magical chanter. After all, I am a citizen of the kingdom, and it is necessary for me to recruit talents for the kingdom, Gujiafu said seriously. Please forgive my refusal, Sir Gujiafu. I still have some family members to take care of. I won't go to King's City with you, Wu Ming said naturally. When Yair Baird heard the word family, her expression under the helmet instantly became emotional. Is that so? That's a pity. Then, I wish Sir Villo a safe journey. Gujiafu was not angry at Wu Ming's refusal. He only smiled faintly. If I have the chance to go to King City, I would like to ask Good Jefu to lead the way for me, Wu Ming said jokingly. Of course, Good Jefu said, leave it to me. After that, Wu Ming summoned Fan Baba from the forest near Khan village. Sister, look, it's that beautiful deer. Don't talk nonsense, Nim. That's Sir Villow's magical beast. So this is Sir Villow's magical beast. It's really an excellent magical beast, Good Jefu praised. Wu Ming also got on the Fan Baba with Baird. He waved at Good Jefu, Only, and the others and walked into the distance. After a while, Wu Ming noticed that Baird, who was sitting behind him, seemed to have some questions. What's the matter, Baird? Baird hesitated for a while and asked. Sir Wu Ming, do you like humans very much? Hearing this question, Wu Ming smiled faintly. What about you? What do you think of humans? Baird answered without hesitation. Weak, inferior creatures. What a beautiful scene it would be to stomp them to death like insects. After hearing Baird's words, Wu Ming had an expression that said, I knew you would say that. Baird, I quite like humans. After all, I was adopted by a kind old man when I was born. Sir Wu Ming was adopted by humans. Baird was very surprised. Ah, yes. You guys didn't exist back then. Back then, I thought I was a human. Wu Ming recalled the past and said slowly. Is that why Sir Wu Ming likes humans? Not only that, Baird. Wu Ming sat back and sat at the same level as Baird. Humans are very mysterious creatures. Their bodies are weak, their strength is weak, and they often fight among themselves. They are vulgar and sad. But humans love life, love peace, are positive, united, and tolerant. Humans are such a strange species. They never bow down in the face of difficulties, never give up, and never retreat. They have the courage to face everything. They know how to learn and know how to create. Even if their innate abilities are insufficient, they will work hard to grow. Wu Ming looked at Baird. Baird, I don't expect you to treat humans well. At the very least, don't be so hostile to them. After saying that, Baird did not say anything else. Wu Ming smiled helplessly. Consider it my willful request. What do you think, Baird? I understand, Sir Wu Ming. I'll treat humans seriously, whether it's to kill or to save them, Baird said as if he had figured something out. Thank you, Baird. Please don't say that, Sir Wu Ming. Baird smiled happily. After coming to this world, you're the only one who's accompanied us. We have to thank you. After hearing Baird's words, Wu Ming seemed to have thought of something and fell silent. I'm sorry, Baird. Why are you sorry, Sir Wu Ming? Baird was puzzled. It's nothing. Anyway, let's go home. Wu Ming gave up on thinking. Forget it. I'll let nature take its course. When Nasarik has established himself in this world, I'll tell them the truth. Yes, Sir Wu Ming. Under the setting sun, a man and a woman rode on a beautiful beast and traveled slowly. Chapter 39. The office on the 9th floor of Nazarik's underground tomb. Wu Ming sat on the office chair and listened to Baird reading the report. Also, the magic sealing crystal contains a level 60 devil, the Radiant Lord's angel. According to the person called Purgatory, this angel once killed the devil god that ravaged the continent. Currently, this is the situation in Nasarik. Please take a look. After Baird finished reading, he placed the document in front of Wu Ming. Celian Cult Nation. 6-color scripture, Ha. Wu Ming picked up the document in his hand and started reading. A cult nation that exterminates all non-human creatures above humans. The Celian cult nation and our Nasarik are really incompatible. Wu-Ming rubbed his forehead helplessly. Such a nation was really disadvantageous to Nasarick. Don't come into contact with the cult nation for now. Set up a devil beast near Khan village that can avoid being detected by intelligence magic and has stealth abilities. That's all for now. Yes. You've worked hard, Yerbade. Go back and rest. Wu-Ming leaned back on the chair and said to Yerbade. How could that be? Lord Wu-Ming, as long as it is for the sake of Jizun, the person I love the most, I will do anything. Seeing that Bedford had turned into an infatuated girl again, Wu-Ming couldn't help but turn his head away. I still want to complain. What's with Yeerbade's broken character? Suddenly, a charming voice traveled into the room. Excuse me. Satya pushed open the door and walked in. Satya. What's the matter? Wu-Ming asked curiously. I'm here to admire Lord Wu-Ming's majesty, Satya said with an infatuated expression. Oh, is that so? Then you should be satisfied. Satya, you can leave now. I still have important matters to discuss with Lord Wu-Ming, Yeerbade said expressionlessly. Old woman, you're so annoying. Are you in such a hurry because it's past its expiration date? Satya said with an I knew it expression. Then is there anything else on your body that can be eaten? You're like a bunch of food samples. In fact, Yeerbade looked at Zaisha's chest. I'll kill you, old hag. Who are you calling past their expiration date? Bastard. Wu-Ming slammed the table as he watched the Dark Yenny duel. Alright, you two shouldn't quarrel as soon as you see each other. Speaking of which, why don't I know what Xia Taiye is going to do? Wu-Ming asked. It's like this, Lord Wu-Ming. I'm about to leave for battle and meet up with Sebastian. It will be difficult for me to return to Nasarick for a while, so I'm here to pay my respects to you. It seems that Yeerbade and Demiurgos had discussed and sent some people to gather information. Wu-Ming thought. This is the first time you've come into contact with this world. You must be careful in everything you do, Wu-Ming said earnestly. Yes, Lord Wu-Ming. Then, I'll take my leave first. Following the sound of the door closing, Satya left the office. Lord Wu-Ming, what are you going to do next? Yeerbade asked. I'm going to the treasury to get something. Yeerbade, go do what you need to do. Don't worry about me. Wu-Ming stood up and stretched. Yes, Lord Wu-Ming. However, Demiurgos may come back to report something to you later. Yeerbade bowed slightly and said respectfully. Is that so? Then let Demiurgos wait for me here. I'll be back soon. Yes, Lord Wu-Ming. After giving his instructions, Wu-Ming teleported to the entrance of the treasury. Wu-Ming's dragonist was upgraded into a noble phantasm. Coupled with Wu-Ming's constant nourishment, the space inside dragonist was now very vast. In fact, Wu-Ming came this time to put all the useful things in Nazarik's treasury into dragonist. After all, Wu-Ming didn't want to live a life without anything. It was more convenient to put the useful things directly into dragonist. Wu-Ming actually only learned a few spells in Nasarick. The 5th tier magic Dragon Thunder, the 6th tier magic Angel's Return, the 9th tier magic Heavenly Fire, and the magic skills Mirror Reflection, Dragon Thunder, and many other high-level spells. They were mainly used to deal with humans. Angel's Return was a low-level resurrection spell without side effects. Wu-Ming chose to learn this resurrection spell because he didn't know the performance of resurrection magic, such as the resurrection target's level must not exceed 50, the corpse's integrity, and so on. Heavenly Fire was a large-scale killing spell used to deal with non-human creatures. Mirror Reflection was a high-level passive skill. Passive skills were not divided into levels. They were only divided into high-level, intermediate, and low-level. This skill was not only used to guard against intelligence detection magic, but also had absolute resistance to mind control, mind reading, and other mental attacks. That was the advantage of the game. After all, a game couldn't be so detailed. For the time being, Wuming learned these few spells. There were several more practical Wuming spells that Wuming didn't learn yet. For example, advanced item creation, advanced item destruction, advanced item identification, portal, and so on. The magic books Wuming sorted out before were the magic books for these skills. After Wuming talked to Pandora Yakut, the keeper of the treasure vault, he took some of the treasures that were unnecessary or redundant for Nasarik. Because the game has become reality, Wuming had no way to know the function of the items in the treasure vault except for the special interpretation items. Fortunately, the Staff of Anziwergong works. In this way, Wuming used the Staff of Anziwergong to interpret the function of the items one by one and chose some items that were useful to him and did not conflict with the purpose of protecting Nasarik. In the treasure vault, there were other Supreme Being spirit halls. In fact, it was the cenotaph. The last player who stayed behind sorted out the equipment of other players, and those equipment were worn by some stone soldiers. It would automatically attack those who wore the Ring of Anziwergong. Wuming was shocked when he came here. Looking at these somewhat crooked sculptures, Wuming felt the players' love for other players, for Anziwergong, for Nasarik, and even for Yggdrasil. Don't worry, since I'm here, I will make it flourish, and I won't let your efforts over the years go to waste. After all, Wuming's strength was ready-made, and Nazarik's strength was built by those players. After leaving the treasure vault, Wuming returned to his office. Demiurgos was standing in front of his desk, thinking about something. After hearing someone came in, Demiurgos looked back and quickly bowed. Wuming, Sama, you're back. Ah, Demiurgos. Is there anything you want to tell me? Wuming walked to the office chair and sat down. It's about Nazarik's finances. Demiurgos adjusted his glasses and continued. After you gave me the gold coins of this world, during testing, I found that as long as they are processed into objects the size of gold coins and have a certain value, they can be used to support Nazarik's operations. Wuming's eyes lit up. That's great. I happen to have some gold and jewelry that I don't need right now. I'll give them all to you. With that, Wuming took the item that Demiurgos handed over. It was a special leather bag with a large mouth. When he opened the bag, what greeted his eyes was a membrane that looked like water. Wuming pointed his palm at the membrane, and a large number of treasures swarmed out of Wuming's palm and fell into the membrane. This bag was called the Infinite Backpack, and it was an item in the Yggdrasil game. It could store unlimited items, and the weight of the bag would not change. After a while, Wuming sealed the bag and handed it to Demiurgos. Looks like I have to find a lucrative job for Nasarik. Wuming began to plan in his mind. Chapter 40. 10th floor, Nasarik Library. Wuming was reading a magic book intently. Advanced item creation. As his voice fell, Wuming had a magnificent greatsword in his hand. Wuming waved it casually. As the greatsword danced, it produced friction with the surrounding air, making a sound as if it was tearing the space. The skills in the game are really abnormal. With high-grade item creation alone, you can create weapons with high durability and power. High-level item creation was a skill that could create simple weapons or items in Yggdrasil, but its effect in the game was a bit weak. After all, powerful weapons or items in the game couldn't be created with high-level item creation. For example, divine artifact and world-level items. It stood to reason that this skill shouldn't change even after the game was transformed into reality, but advanced item creation. As he chanted the spell, a silver chain appeared in Wuming's hand. Then Wuming chanted another spell. Advanced item identification. Wuming said as if he understood something. So that's how it is, you can even create Enkidu. Is it because I'm not a player in the game, so I can use this skill? The Enkidu created with advanced item creation had the same effect as the original Enkidu. The more magical power provided during the creation, the stronger the chain would be. But there was a drawback: the items created with advanced item creation would not have any growth, and it couldn't increase the magical power output to improve its performance. That was the only drawback. However, Wuming took advantage of one of the advantages of advanced item creation. The created items would not disappear because of being placed for a long time, they would only be destroyed. In other words, as long as it was maintained, the created items would always exist. Of course, it still depended on what kind of item was created. If it was a weapon, it would be fine, but if it was a crystal item, it would disappear and turn into powder after a few uses. Advanced item destruction: with a bang, the great sword that Wuming had created earlier turned into motes of starlight and disappeared into the air. This skill isn't bad either. If I use it, it can completely rival shatter magic. Crushing magic, as the name suggested, was a type of magic that specialized in crushing. It was extremely dangerous. If something went wrong, even the caster himself would be crushed. Well, let's leave it at that for now. Wuming put away the fake heaven lock in his hand. Let's go to Yolander to exchange some gold coins later. 500 gold coins. What do you think? 1,000 gold coins. Dong. Deal, deal. Walking out of the shop, Wuming shook the money pouch in his hand. Seriously, this shop owner is really interesting. He actually wants to buy the weapon I created for 500 gold coins. Does he think I'm easy to bully? Wuming said in boredom as he looked at the bulging money pouch in his hand. I didn't expect there to be such a thing as platinum coins. Is it worth 10 times more than gold coins? As for whether the shop owner lied to him or not, Wuming wasn't worried. After all, Wuming found a large shop with a good reputation. Even if he was cheated, Wuming still had the means to find the shop owner. It's almost time, it's time to go back. Wuming found a rather secluded alleyway. Portal. As the voice fell, a constantly changing black and red circular portal appeared in front of Wuming. Without hesitation, Wuming walked in. In a conference room similar to a luxurious living room, a group of guardians sat there discussing something. A constantly changing black and red circular portal appeared in the room. A group of guardians immediately stood up and put on a respectful look. Wuming walked out of the portal. Wuming, Sama. Wuming waved his hand, stopped the guardians from saluting, and sat on the main seat. Clatter. With the sound of gold coins colliding, a bag of platinum coins fell on the table. Demiurgos, these are the platinum coins I got from Urantir. You can test them later. Yes, sir. Demiurgos reached out and put away the bag of platinum coins. Y'all, have you finished modifying the villager's memory? Yes, Sir Wuming, Sama, but because you made a lot of noise that day, I followed your order and modified some of their memory. Y'all raised his hand and replied with a smile. Okay. Khan village is like this for the time being. Remember to send some troops to lurk near Khan village. They don't need to be strong, but they must be good at hiding. Yes, Sir Wuming, Sama. Malay, has Nazarik's concealment been completed? This was the decision made by Yair Bade and Demiurgos during their discussion. After Wuming agreed to hide Nazarik, this task was given to Malay. Yes, Sir Wuming. Nazarik's surroundings are hidden with soil and trees. The sky is also hidden with illusions. There should be no problem, Malay said weakly. Yair Bade, keep in contact with Zaisha and Sebastian. If anything happens, retreat immediately. Yes, Sir Wuming. Don't worry. Yair Bade smiled sweetly. However, when Wuming saw this smile, he remembered Yair Bade's infatuated nature. Ahem, I'm going to the royal capital. Yes, I'll immediately prepare the guards to accompany you. Yearbade's smile changed and said seriously. There's no need for the guards. I'm going alone. When Wuming said this, the guardians were unhappy. Please reconsider, Sir Wuming. Please bring some guards, Sir Wuming. The Supreme Honorable's safety is the most important. Sir Wuming, please reconsider. Hearing everyone's words, Wuming smiled bitterly. All right. I'll choose someone from Nasarick to bring along. Wuming looked around at the guardians and saw the worry in their eyes. You guys were originally NPCs. Is the Supreme Honorable's life force after becoming physical? You guys are really, like a group of children who can't grow up. To be honest, Wuming already had a sense of belonging to Nasarick. After all, Wuming had been on the move ever since he left the ordinary world where he had nothing to worry about. From the country of shadows to Connaught, from Britain to Babylon, although he stayed in some places for longer periods of time, Wuming was still a passerby. And it was unintentional that he came to this world. Really? I'm a little envious of the players of Ains Wugong. If only I could travel through time with Nasarick. That's right. Wuming seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stood up. What's wrong, Sir Wuming? Yearbade looked at Wuming with a worried face. The other guardians also looked worried. Sorry, I just thought of something. That's all for the meeting. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Wuming hurriedly opened the portal and stepped in, leaving a group of guardians staring at each other in bewilderment. Chapter 41. After Wuming left the meeting room, he immediately went to his bedroom. Wuming stretched out his hand, and a twisted golden scepter appeared in his hand. I hope my idea can be realized. With that, Wuming crossed his legs and activated the floating function of the scepter of Anziwargong, allowing it to float in front of him. Wuming closed his eyes and began to permeate his mind power into the scepter of Anziwargong. 7 days later, outside Wuming's bedroom on the 9th floor of Nasarick, a group of guardians surrounded Wuming's bedroom door. Annabelle, what happened to Master Wuming? It's been 6 days since the planned departure time. You just said, Master Wuming ordered us not to disturb him, don't worry. How can I not be worried? If something happens to Lord Wuming. Yearbade had a heartbroken expression on his face as he yelled heartbreakingly at a female servant who was standing guard outside the door. Annabelle said very calmly. Master Yearbade, I am also very worried about Master Wuming, but Master Wuming has clearly stated that no one can enter without permission. I am very sorry. All right, Yearbade. Demiurgos, who was standing at the side, pushed up his glasses. Since Master Wuming said this, he must have his reasons. Let's leave it at that for today. Go back and continue the work that Master Wuming gave you. That's right. Although we come to Master Wuming's bedroom every day to wait for Master Wuming to come out, we cannot slack off on the work that Master Wuming gave us. Cositas said with an unusually hoarse voice as he breathed out cold air. Let's go, Yearbade. Master Wuming will be fine. Yearbade pulled Yearbade aside. How can I? That fake breast is finally not in Nasarick. How can I miss such a good opportunity? That. I think it's not good to sneak away while Satya is not here, Malay said weakly. Just as the commotion was going on, a large amount of magic power came from Wuming's room. The magic power even destroyed Wuming's bedroom door. The large amount of magic power in the room condensed into a magic power mist that kept leaking out of the door. Master Wuming. In an instant, the guardians, including the maid Annabelle, panicked. I'm fine. Wuming's voice came from within the magic power mist. This can't be wasted. With that, the mana mist that had been coming out of the room began to shrink back into the room. Finally, all of the magic power mist was the staff in Wuming's staff. Was the staff of staff. However, at this time, although the appearance of the staff of staff did not change, the guardians who had been lucky enough to see this staff found that Nazarik's secret treasure, the staff of staff, had become more sacred. And those who had not seen this staff, including Annabelle, were in awe of it from the bottom of their hearts. Master Wu Ming. Everyone present saluted to Wu Ming, knelt on one knee, and bowed their heads to greet him. Seeing this scene, Wu Ming smiled bitterly. I clearly told them not to salute like this and just bow, but they refused on the grounds of not being disrespectful to Master Wu Ming in public. Really, a group of troublemakers. Get up, everyone. Yes. After everyone got up, Wu Ming continued. If you want to know what happened, I'll explain it in the conference hall later. Yair Abed, get someone to clean up the room. Annabelle Gamma, go get ready and follow me to the royal city later. Yes. Master Wu Ming. WH. Yes. Master Wu Ming. A moment later, the guardians gathered in the room where the previous meeting was held. The guardians sat on the chairs and quietly looked at Wu Ming, who was holding the staff of staff. Guardians, now, I want to announce something that is worthy of me, worthy of you, and worthy of the entire Nasarik to be excited. Wu Ming said with a charming smile. After the guardians heard this, they all sat up straight. Before the announcement, I want to ask a question. Wu Ming glanced at the guardians and said. Do you have any thoughts about the world we were in before, Yggdrasil? As soon as these words came out, the guardians' bodies tensed up. The guardians stood up together, knelt on one knee, and bowed their heads. Where Master Wu Ming is where we are, and we will always follow Master Wu Ming. Now, we have the ability to travel to other worlds, and this ability is the treasure of Nasarik that I have, the staff of staff. All the guardians' eyes lit up. However, this was Wu Ming's lie. Unfortunately, we can't choose the worlds we can travel to. Then, Master Wu Ming, you mean that the first world we travel to might be Yggdrasil, and the last world we travel to might be Yggdrasil? Demiurgos pushed his glasses and said. Correct, but there is also the possibility that we will never return to Yggdrasil. After all, there are too many worlds. My biggest interest is traveling, so I may leave Nasarik in the future. Master Wu Ming. Hearing what Wu Ming said, everyone was anxious, especially Yair Bade, who looked like he was about to cry. He's already crying, Wu Ming complained in his heart. Don't worry, I will take you and our Nasarik with me. Now, the plan has changed. Except for the members of Nasarik who are outside, all members are not allowed to go out without my permission. Use message to inform Sebastian and Zaisha to collect the necessary information as soon as possible and return to Nasarik as soon as possible. Leave this matter to the Guardian's chief supervisor, Yair Bade. Yes, Master Wu Ming. Wu Ming looked at Demiurgos. Demiurgos. Yes, Master. Raise the alert level of Nasarik again to beyond the highest alert level. I believe that as the commander of the Guardians, you will be able to do it well. Yes, Master Wu Ming, I will not disappoint you. I will definitely break through the highest alert level of Nasarik. As for the matter of the staff of Anziergong traveling between worlds, you can spread it on your own. The first and third levels will be given to Cositas, the fifth level will be given to Yuri and Mare, and the eighth level will be given to Demiurgos. After completing the corresponding task, stand by. Dismissed. Yes, Master Wu Ming. After a flash of light, Wu Ming left using the staff of Anziergong's teleportation function. The Guardians quickly took action, and Nasarik ushered in a big change. At this moment, Wu Ming and Annabelle were walking on the road to the royal capital. Chapter 42. In the carriage. Wu Ming was resting with his eyes closed. After Wu Ming came to this different world, he had been wearing the white holy cloth of the Uruk. Because he was going to the capital, Wu Ming changed into a set that met the standards of this different world. White underwear, a black coat, a pair of black trousers, and a pair of black boots. His neat short hair was constantly floating with the wind coming in from the window. There were no traces of erosion by time on his face. He still looked like a young man. Outside, Annabelle was driving the horse and driving the carriage at the moment. He wore a white shirt with black collar and sleeves, brown trousers, and brown boots that reached his calves. He wore a brown cloak that covered his body, and an ordinary sheathed longsword hung at his waist. Annabelle looked at Wu-Ming, who was resting with his eyes closed in the carriage from time to time. Obviously, Annabelle already knew the new function of the staff of Ain-Zurgong. Feeling the gaze outside, Wu-Ming had to smile bitterly in his heart. I didn't expect them to be so surprised after knowing that Nasarick can travel between worlds. I was obviously lying. No, it's not a lie. After all, I can now take Nasarick with me to travel between worlds. Previously, Wu-Ming thought that he entered this different world after fusing with a light ball. After a later judgment, the light ball was the big underground tomb of Nasarick. In other words, the big underground tomb of Nasarick should have become part of Wu-Ming. But because of the nobility of Wu-Ming's bloodline, his bloodline was automatically expelled from the big underground tomb of Nasarick after Wu-Ming entered this world. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been Nasarick on the grassland near Urantir. Instead, there would have been a huge dragon lying there. But because Nasarick and Wu-Ming had fused for a short time, and the staff of Ain-Zurgong could be said to be closely related to the big underground tomb of Nasarick, Wu-Ming suddenly had an idea. What would happen if the staff of Ain-Zurgong became my noble phantasm? Wu-Ming was filled with curiosity and unknowns. That was why Wu-Ming went into seclusion in his bedroom for 7 days despite his plans being disrupted. These 7 days were used to upgrade the staff of Ain-Zurgong into a noble artifact. As Wu-Ming had fused with Nazarick's underground grave for a short period of time, the time it took for Wu-Ming to transform the staff of Ain-Zurgong into a relic was much shorter than the time it took for other relics to evolve. After the staff of Ain-Zurgong was transformed into a relic, it had 2 abilities. Firstly, it was because the staff of Ain-Zurgong had a large number of magic skills. After it was upgraded to a noble relic, it became a super weapon that could release tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of magic spells. Secondly, Ain-Zurgong Guild stronghold was located in the underground graveyard of Nasarick. The staff of Ain-Zurgong was the guild weapon of Ain-Zurgong Guild. If the guild weapon was destroyed, the guild would be forcefully disbanded. The guild weapon had the highest authority in the guild. After the staff of Ain-Zurgong was upgraded into a noble relic, its ability became to store the underground graveyard of Nasarick into the staff of Ain-Zurgong. It could also form an enchantment that eroded the world, and summon the underground graveyard of Nasarick to its master in the form of magic. In short, it was the reality marble of the world in the shape of the moon. The magic that could instantiate the scenery in one's mind was called reality marble. Once the reality marble was activated, it would change the surrounding space into a completely different scenery, shaping the caster's mind, and eroding the real world. That was why Wu-Ming said that the staff of Ain-Zurgong could allow the underground graveyard of Nasarick to travel between worlds. However, what I care about is the second ability of the noble relic, the staff of Ain-Zurgong. The biggest advantage of the reality marble was that everything in the enchantment was immortal. The people or things in the Nazarick's underground graveyard were killed or destroyed, and they would only turn into magic residue, drifting away with the wind, and it had no effect on the people or things themselves. Even if they were destroyed, killed, or even destroyed the entire reality marble, as long as the caster had enough magic power, he could summon them again. In that case, Wu-Ming could use the second ability of the staff of Ain-Zurgong without worrying about the guardian's safety. That's great. Wu-Ming couldn't help but say what was on his mind. What's wrong, Wu-Ming-sama? Annabelle, who was outside the carriage, couldn't help but ask. No, nothing. Wu-Ming smiled helplessly. Then he remembered something and said. Didn't I tell you to call me Villo-sama, Villo there answered. The carriage stopped. Yes, Wuming, Sama. Annabelle instantly ran to the carriage, knelt on one knee, and said with her head down. It's Villo. Mr. Villo. Wuming raised his voice and shouted. Yes, Mr. Villo, Sama. Wuming was silent for a while. Forget it, just call me that, let's move on. Yes. Mr. Villo, Sama. Wuming felt like the glass in his heart was broken. Wuming, Sama, we're here. Hearing Annabelle's words, Wuming opened his eyes. He poked his head out and looked at the slightly plain gate of the royal city. We're finally here. In fact, Wuming was a little anxious about coming to the royal city before he upgraded the staff of Anziergen into a noble artifact. After all, Nasarick wanted to survive in this world, and it was inevitable that he would have to deal with the natives of this world. However, after finding a way to take Nasarick out of this world, Wuming was not so anxious about Nasarick taking root in this world. After all, there is no world that Nasarick likes to move to, so it's better to take root in this world for the time being. That was Wuming's thought. Let's go, Annabelle, find a hotel to stay first. Yes. Mr. Villo, Sama. Wuming was speechless. Soon, Wuming and Annabelle stayed in a good hotel with the little money they had left. Because when they were in Khan village, Good Jefu once said, if Mr. Villo wants to come to the royal city, please come to me and let me do my best. After recalling the address mentioned by Good Jefu, Wuming took Annabelle to Good Jefu's residence. It was a very ordinary house without any special features. Except for Annabelle, who was slightly dissatisfied, Wuming felt that this house was good. Wuming stepped forward and knocked on the door. After waiting for a while, no one responded. It seems that Good Jefu is not at home. Forget it, let's go back to the hotel first, Annabelle. A mere bug can make the supreme wait like this. Mr. Villo, Sama, please rest assured that I will personally tie it up and bring it to the hotel. With that said, she was about to raise her hand to cast magic on the house. Wuming was just about to stop Annabelle, and suddenly a voice that was quite familiar to Wuming came from a distance. Are you Mr. Villo, Sama? Chapter 43. Wuming looked at the source of the voice. A strong man in his 30s stood there in plain clothes. Long time no see, Sir Good Jefu. Wuming waved and smiled. Please forgive me for not being able to entertain you at my humble abode. Good Jefu put 2 glasses of water in front of Wuming, who was sitting. Isn't this proof of Sir Good Jefu's integrity? Wuming didn't mind and took a glass of water to drink. Annabelle, don't stand there, sit down and drink a glass of water. This is an order. Yes. Villo, Sama. Annabelle, who was standing behind Wuming, had to sit down after hearing Wuming's order. As for the address, after Wuming thought about it again and again, he still let Annabelle call him Sir. After all, Mr. Rosin was stranger than Rosin. Thank you again, Villo, Sama. If it weren't for you, I would have died in Khan village. Looking at Good Jefu solemnly thanking him, Wuming waved his hand casually. You're welcome, Sir Good Jefu. I have to trouble you to come to the capital this time. Good Jefu was taken aback and then smiled bitterly. I thought Sir Villo came to me to introduce you to the king. It seems that I'm flattered. Then he looked serious. So, Sir Villo, what's the matter? Wuming stretched out his hand, and a 3-fist-sized rectangular gray-black metal appeared in his hand. This is steel. Good Jefu was more excited after seeing it. Yes, that was the pure steel block created by Wuming with advanced item creation. Not only the shape was good for forging weapons, but the density was also higher than the steel produced in this world. Such a large piece of finished steel. Is Sir Villo here to sell this piece of steel to me? Wuming smiled. No, Sir Good Jefu, I'm here to do business with you. I have a lot of finished steel blocks of this size. Wuming put the steel block on the table. I wonder if Sir Gujiefu will be able to eat it. Gujiefu thought for a while. If there are really a lot of them, I can't make the decision. How about this, Your Excellency Villo? It just so happens that Her Royal Highness is looking for me. Let me bring you to see Her Royal Highness. Oh, could it be the Golden Princess who proposed many wise policies in the kingdom? Wuming's eyes flashed. Yes, it's Her Royal Highness the Golden Princess. What do you think? Of course, no problem. Although he said so, Wuming thought in his heart. Can a princess come up with so many outstanding examples? I feel like there's something wrong with her. Soon, Wuming and Annabelle were taken to a villa near the palace by Gujiefu. Although it was called a villa, it did not look luxurious. Instead, it gave off a simple feeling. After following the servant to the living room, Wuming and Gujiefu chatted while waiting for the arrival of the Golden Princess. Annabelle, who was standing behind Wuming, was somewhat unhappy. She said something like, "A mere insect dares to make Lord Wuming, a supreme expert, wait. This subordinate will definitely make her pay the price." Although Wuming deliberately suppressed it, Gujiefu didn't hear it. After a while, a sweet voice came. "I'm sorry to keep you waiting." Wuming looked at the source of the voice. What caught Wuming's eyes was the golden blonde hair. The visitor was wearing a white princess dress with other colored decorations. She wore necklace-like ornaments on her neck and forehead, and a golden petite crown on her head. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Gujiefu. I heard that you brought someone important, so I prepared a little. It's my fault for not asking Her Royal Highness in advance." After some small talk, Gujiefu introduced Wuming to the princess. "This is the Villo Silenceword who saved my life in Khan village." Gujiefu then introduced the princess to Wuming. "This is the third princess of the kingdom, Lady Lana." The princess looked at Wuming. "Thank you, Mr. Villo Silenceword. Thank you very much for saving Mr. Gujiefu." Lana thanked Wuming as soon as she came up. "I'm Lana Ter Chardin Lal Van Seve. I'm sorry I didn't see your name on the newspaper." Wuming looked at the naive Lana without any change in his expression. "It's my honor to see a commoner like me, Princess Lana," Wuming said half-jokingly. "You're funny, Mr. Silenceword." Lana covered her mouth and laughed. Wuming looked at the beautiful person in front of him and thought. Lana Ter Chardin Lal Van Seve, the third princess of the kingdom of Ristage. She was known for her beauty and wisdom, and was praised as the Golden Princess by the people. But she looks a little like Morgan Le Fay. So, Mr. Gujiefu, why did you bring Mr. Silenceword to see me? Princess Lana asked the question in her heart. "It's like this, Your Royal Highness." Gujiefu took out the stainless steel that Wuming provided and explained the purpose of Wuming's visit to Princess Lana. "So that's how it is." Princess Lana, who understood the cause and effect, had a look of sudden realization. "Don't worry, Mr. Silenceword. I will help you find a trustworthy merchant. Please allow me to purchase some of your stainless steel as a member of the royal family." Wuming didn't have a problem with that. "I don't have a problem with the kingdom buying it all. After all, I'm just a merchant here to sell things, Your Royal Highness." Wuming smiled. "Just call me Lana. I believe that a person who saved the kingdom's warrior captain must be a good person." Lana smiled at Wuming. This sentence surprised Wuming. After all, in Wuming's eyes, he wasn't a good person. Whether it was in Connaught, Britain, Babylon, or now Nasarick, Wuming was always protecting his own interests. In order to let Maeve let him go, Wuming promised Maeve to help him finish the war. In order to protect Britain, Wuming had done a lot of dirty things. He had thought of buying goods and murder countless times. In Babylon, with Gilgamesh there, Wuming didn't have to do too much for Babylon. However, it was also because Wuming couldn't defeat the gods of Sumer pantheon and could only bluff. Otherwise, Wuming wouldn't have left with Enkidu, who faked his death. In Nasaric, the original Nasaric people were people with a negative sense of justice. Wuming didn't ask them to change. He only advised a few people not to be too hostile towards humans. Of course, that was only towards people who were kind. As for people who were full of evil intentions and scum, even if they were killed by the people of Nasaric, Wuming wouldn't bat an eye. Wuming was such a person who was full of egoism and did as he pleased. Hearing Lana praise Wuming as a good person, Wuming was a bit absent-minded. Since it's daily, Princess Lana should also call me a Villo. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. Wuming said. Yes, Mr. Villo. Well, since they don't have any evil intentions, I don't need to care whether they miss Morgan Le Fay or not. It doesn't affect me anyway. Just like that, Wuming's merchant plan was successfully carried out. Just as Wuming and Lana were happily talking, a young man came into the room. Chapter 44. I'm very sorry, Your Highness Lana, I'm late. A young man opened the door and walked in. The young man had short blonde hair, a youthful face, and a resolute face. He was wearing white armor. Although he looked young, he gave off a very reliable feeling. Lana smiled and shook her head. It's okay, Clem. I'm here to discuss something with Mr. Jedjeff. Not to mention, Mr. Jedjeff also brought Mr. Villo Silensword, who saved Mr. Jedjeff's life in Khan village. Hearing that it was the person who saved Jedjeff's life, the young man named Clem's eyes lit up. He turned his head and looked at the only male in the room other than Jedjeff. That direct gaze made Annabelle a little unhappy. Just as Annabelle was about to say something, Wuming reached out his hand to stop her. After all, if the situation was not right, Annabelle would speak very arrogantly. He had to stop her. Is your name Clem? Do you have something to ask me? Yes, Mr. Silensword. I want to ask you how to become stronger. Clem, you're being rude. Princess Lana shouted. Jedjeff seemed to know something. He didn't say anything and just watched quietly. At this moment, no one said anything. Suddenly, a female voice was heard. You still haven't given up, boy. Everyone looked at the closed door. The voice came from outside the door. Is it Gragland? Princess Lana asked. The door was pushed open. The first to come in was a tall and sturdy blonde woman wearing red armor. It was as if a woman's head was pressed against a strong man's body. It was quite out of place. You should also stop talking, Gragland. Then came a pair of twin sisters. They were almost identical. Oh, Hina, T. Are you too interested in this virgin? Ha ha ha. Her hair was tied up with a golden broom. She wore a scarf around her neck like a mask. Her upper body was wearing armor that only covered her chest. Her lower body was in shorts. Overall, it looked like a rather revealing female ninja outfit. Their clothes were embroidered with red and blue threads and patterns respectively. The red one was Tina, and the blue one was Tia. What nonsense are you talking about? Looks like it's not suitable for you to go out today, Glenn. Following that, a petite masked woman with a spirited expression walked in. He wore a red hooded cloak over his black clothes and a mask with a red gem embedded on his forehead. Strands of golden hair peeked out from the hood and mask. Alright, Gigran, Urbi Rue, this is Her Highness Guest Hall. Stop messing around. The person who spoke seemed to be the captain. She was a beautiful woman with long blonde hair. She wore red tights and a blue skirt. She wore white cloth armor on her chest, a pair of white gauntlets on her forearms, and white protective boots on her calves. Oh Hajisai, you're here. Princess Lana, on the other hand, was quite happy to see this woman who seemed to be the team leader. She stood up and ran over to hold Haggis' hand. "Aw, Lana, I'm sorry to disturb you while you're talking to the warrior chief. Let me introduce you, this is the leader of Wild Rose, my friend, Haggis Elba Drew Eindora." "Hello," Haggis said with a smile. "This is Mr. Villo Silensward, the one who saved Mr. Jeff's life in Con Village. Next to him is Mr. Villo's guard, Miss Annabelle. Just call me Villo, I'm not a pedantic person." Wu-Ming stood up and greeted Wild Rose's people. "Ha ha ha, you're so cool. Are you interested in having a go with me, handsome?" Gigren's rough voice came. "You aphid, don't you know what you look like? You'd better go back to the furnace and be reborn first before you consider whether to serve Sir Villo," Annabelle said mercilessly. "Oh, you look so arrogant, let's go out and practice." Gigren, Annabelle, Wu-Ming and Haggis stopped the fight at the same time. "Well, let's solve Clem's problem first." At this time, Gigren returned to the topic. "Kid, you want to ask the strong to tell you how to become strong again, right?" Clem was silent. Gigren's rough voice continued. "I've said it before, the so-called saying that you can become strong through hard work is no longer suitable for you. Although some heroes also became strong through hard work, you've worked hard enough. I believe that no one in the kingdom can be said to be more hardworking than you. Give up, kid, you can't become strong anymore." Gigren's words made Clem's face pale, but from his determined eyes, it was clear that Clem had no intention of giving up. "That's true," Wu-Ming said slowly. "But there are many ways to become strong." Wu-Ming looked at Clem. "Let me ask you, why do you want to become strong?" Clem looked at Princess Lana, and then looked at Wu-Ming. "I want to become strong, to be able to protect Princess Lana." After that, there was another moment of silence. A moment later. "Protect." Wu-Ming smiled. "Come out with me." After that, Wu-Ming walked out of the room. Annabelle glanced at Clem and followed Wu-Ming. Clem and Lana's faces were filled with joy. Could that handsome guy really make Clem stronger? "Let's go out and see," Irby Rue, who was wearing a mask, said. Rose Tsang and the others followed. In the courtyard, Wu-Ming and Clem stood opposite each other. "Don't you need a weapon?" Clem asked. Wu-Ming smiled and shook his head. "Come at me with all you've got, Clem. Otherwise, you won't have the chance later." Although his words were arrogant, Wu-Ming was not wrong. "Then I'll go, Mr. Sirenhold." After that, Clem rushed forward with his sword. Clem swung his sword down, but Wu-Ming's body swayed and dodged the attack. Seeing how easily Wu-Ming dodged his attack, Clem swung his sword harder and faster, while Wu-Ming continued to dodge. Clem had already swung his sword a dozen times, but none of them hit Wu-Ming, and Wu-Ming did not even take half a step back. "Clem, have you heard of a saying?" Wu-Ming kept dodging Clem's attacks and said. "When a person is in danger, they will explode with unprecedented power." "Yes, I know," Clem replied. After hearing this, Wu-Ming squinted his eyes. "Are you ready?" Without waiting for Clem's reply, Wu-Ming released his terrifying aura. The magic power emitted from Wu-Ming's body wreaked havoc on the ground around him, causing dirt to fly everywhere. Everyone present except Clem felt like they were facing a dragon, and their eyes were full of fear. Clem, who was targeted by Wu-Ming's aura, was unable to move, and fear continued to erode Clem's heart. "Let me see your determination to protect."